Hey, Jamie.
Yes.
It's just Brown. I just lost my internet, so I'm calling in at the moment.
Okay, got it. Thanks. We can hear you.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, it is 4:30. Would you like to begin the meeting? I believe we have a quorum.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. We will bring to order the October 27th, 2020 Board of Zoning Adjustment Meeting. And if everyone could place yourself on mute, that would be helpful. A couple of other notes to consider. It's oftentimes easier if you use the speakers and sound on your phone instead of your computer. Sometimes we get some feedback. So if you're one of those people, when we start, don't be alarmed if we try to tell you to get off of your computer sound device and get on your phone. It also works best if you don't have two people in the same room on two different devices. There's often an echo when that happens. It's fine if you're two people in a room on the same device, that's not an issue. It's when there's two devices in the same room. We don't swear everybody in at the same time anymore because we have people popping in and popping off of the call. So when your case is called, I will ask you to unmute your phone and show yourself on camera. That is required for the Zoom meeting to get an accurate record that you are who you say you are. And so then I will ask you to raise your right hand and swear to give the accurate testimony at that point. We still are trying to hold fast to our time limits. The presenters of the case have 5 minutes. Anyone from the community who wishes to speak about the application will have 3 minutes each. And so we will try to abide by that. We have a lot of cases tonight, and we want to give everybody a fair opportunity to get fresh minds and fresh ears to appropriately decide the cases. And so with that, Jamie, do we have any preliminary issues that we need to adjudicate first?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have a few tablings, board order extension, and then, of course, the appeal. The first case I think maybe we can take care of is the board order extension.
Okay.
The case that was heard last year in October, it was for 2701 Indianola Avenue. I believe Ms. Ho, if you are on the chat, if you could please introduce yourself and present your request. Okay, she may not be on here. I'll go ahead and just send her an email to remind her.
Okay.
The other cases that are, I'm sorry?
Are you looking for me?
No, Liza
Okay,
Ho.
sorry.
All right, the other that are whoever that is. The cases requesting tablings are number 6, 148 South 17th Street, number 9, 1320 Wilson Avenue, and number 13, 1444 Joyce Avenue. I believe Mr. Perry is the applicant for number 6, 148 South 17th Street.
Okay, Mr. Perry, do you want to go ahead and ask for your request? Make your request?
Yes, certainly. Good evening, members of the board. Request is to table with the house orientation, proposed house orientation has changed, and I will need to add an area variance to the application. So I request the tabling to add that variance and probably appear next month.
Mr. Perry, I think you have to take yourself off of you have to turn your camera on.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. And there is an echo.
I'll move the table.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Rovelli,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones.
You gave a thumbs
Okay.
up.
Yes. All right, I see you. Mr. Maleka
Yes.
and Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, tabling is granted.
Great, thank you.
Continue with the
Okay,
next one.
The next request is number 9, 1320 Wilson Avenue, Mr. Lionel Portis.
Mr. Portis, are you on the line? Take yourself off of mute, please, sir.
Madam Chair, this tabling request was on behalf of the city, so it may not be that important that Mr. Portis requested. The city is requesting it. So if you wouldn't mind, I'll go ahead and request the tabling. This case was scheduled without the applicant having completed the area commission review. A question that was sent to our director and filtered down through me made me believe that it was heard and approved and a condition was made, but it was simply a request for information. So the city is actually requesting this tabling.
So I think Mr. Portis is on the line because he's raising his hand, but he's on mute, so I can't hear what he's trying to say.
Hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah, now
There
we
he is.
can.
Yes, I appreciate your stepping in there, sir, but I believe that it was voted for. I have the favor from the city. I followed all the recommendations, and it's been pointed out that I was granted 9 months from this meeting to go forward with putting down asphalt.
Well, Mr. Portis, I do have an email from Curtis Davis, the chairman of the Columbus Southside Area Commission, saying you've not actually been through the Columbus Southside Area Commission. You may have been through a smaller neighborhood group, but you need a full recommendation from the full commission.
I sat in on that meeting with Mr. Davis several weeks ago, and I have email as confirmation. I also reached out to both he and you this morning.
Right, and we told you that you had not yet received the full recommendation from the area.
Okay, forgive my being new to this process. So what does that imply?
It means you have to postpone your case until you get a recommendation from them.
So that 9 months that was pointed out to me during the last meeting with Mr. Curtis, at that meeting at the time, that doesn't apply? Or what was that? I've sat in on 3 board meetings.
My understanding is that the Columbus Southside Area Commission is going to vote to approve your request for gravel service with a caveat that it will be within 9 months. So obviously next month it'll be maybe a caveat for a pavement within 8 months.
So I need to go back to this. I can, is what you're telling me?
I'm saying you have to get a recommendation from the area commission before the board will hear you.
And who would that be? Could you give me your name, please? Could you tell me who the area commission? I'd like to have a direct name, please.
Curtis Davis.
Okay. He was the one who had recommended the 9 months.
Okay,
If I could just point out that I'll reach out to Mr. Davis and I'll have him make contact with you, if that's all right, because this was all cleared and moved forward from Mr. Davis in the meeting that I had attended 2 weeks ago. I saw where Mr. Ted Welch reached out to you and was implying that this be tabled. And I'm kind of concerned that why a district chairperson would have a say-so over the whole Southside Commission. But I'm just trying to follow and abide by whatever regulations that are put forth. But I can assure you that on the last meeting with Mr. Curtis for the Southside Can zoning board meeting, that's where the 9 months came into play.
Mr. Freeze, do you have something in writing that you can pass along to this gentleman here that explains the process so that it's clear and we can go forward? And
I
he
do,
can
and I did. I
understand.
forwarded this email to him just this morning from discussions with our deputy director. So I think it was very clear in the email, and Mr. Portis seemed to be in agreement with the table. I don't understand why we're getting pushed back on this now. There's no penalty to you, Mr. Portis. There's no penalty whatsoever. You just have to wait 1 more month before your hearing. From what I understand, you all are already using this parking lot. You're under a code violation. So if anyone is burdened, it's the code enforcement officer, not you.
No, I understand that, Mr. Freeze, but you know yourself, I've been working directly with you throughout this whole process to navigate through the purpose way.
Well, if you understand, what is your issue with tabling this 1 more month? Why are you arguing with us? There's no penalty to you whatsoever.
It's not an argument, sir. I'm just trying to understand from that last meeting. I thought that it was agreed upon. That's all.
Well, I'm telling you, you're wrong. It was not.
Okay.
I move the table.
Thank you, Mr. Demora.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yeah.
okay.
Didn't hear.
Maleka,
Yes.
okay. Mr. Lavalley,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer Bailey,
Yes, the variance is tabled. See you next month, Mr. Portis.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Jamie, go ahead.
Our final tabling request is case number 13 on the agenda, 1444 Joyce Avenue.
Okay, is the applicant for 1444 Joyce Avenue here?
Yes, that's Chairwoman Laura Como here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just need a little more time to work through my issue with the area commission. The project North Central Area Commission. And we are working on a meeting with them weekly on site. So I just need a little more time to get back to them and then come back to you next month.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move the table.
Moved,
Second.
seconded, call the roll.
Mr. Jones,
Yeah.
Mr. Lavalley,
Area Commission, because I mean, that's, I got like so many different locations. They're all one and the same.
Yes.
Can you have
Mr.
somebody?
Lavalley, can you hear me? Mr. Lavalley,
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, having technical difficulty. Yeah.
okay. Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Maleka,
Yes.
and Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, your variance is tabled. Thank you. We'll see you next month.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, I understand that we have a appeal to hear.
That is correct. The code enforcement officers are on the line. I do believe that the appellant is on the line as well.
Is the appellant, can the appellant please identify yourself, please? Property owner, are you on the line? Can you identify yourself, please?
Ms. Krebs?
What's the address, Jamie, so we can call it out?
Yes.
3924 Lexmont Road South.
You see her on the line, Jamie?
You can hear her now.
I'm sorry, what?
Mrs. Kimberly Krebs, she was on mute. Hopefully she can hear us now.
She's texting.
Okay.
She's saying, I am here. Can you speak? We need to see your face on the camera. I do not have a camera, she's saying. Jamie?
I don't know what to tell you either. It's okay if she doesn't have a camera, but we have to be able to hear her.
But I thought the city attorney said that they had to identify themselves.
They do. They do have to identify themselves and then explain why they don't have a camera, but the board members have to be visible at all times.
Okay, so
I
Mrs.
clarified that after last month's meeting.
Okay, so Mrs. Krebs, are you able to, she's saying she can talk on her phone, but you cannot hear her. So actually, this is going to be a really quick thing because the way I don't need the city to go through the issue. It sounds like there is a fence that is present, and if that is factually true, then there's no appeal to that fact. Is that correct, Mrs. Krebs? I'm sorry, is it Krebs? KR?
Ms. Krebs, do you have your phone on mute? Maybe not just the web apps, but actually your actual cell phone?
I think we've lost her.
Okay, well, what is the board's pleasure? Would you like to have code enforcement present?
Oh, now she's back. She said, oops, I just disconnected you. So the issue here is that there is a fence present and an appeal is not the proper route to dispute that fact. Am I correct on that?
That is my interpretation, yes.
I'm waiting for Mrs. Krebs to type something that she agrees there is a fence present. Okay, I think we lost her again. So we're gonna have to just go ahead and postpone this one, Jamie, until we
Okay.
can. Oh, now she's saying, I was told by Mr. Freeze that I needed to file this appeal, which I did. Can you inform me of the correct procedure?
Well, first of all, I never ask anyone to file any kind of appeal. My route is always the variance route. I'd be happy to speak with Ms. Krebs and give her the differences between an appeal and a variance. And in the meantime, I suppose we can postpone this.
Yes, can we do that, please, so that you can talk with her and we don't have to wait on this typing? And then everybody can be clear. So we will postpone it until you all have a chance to have a conversation and then we'll hear. Mr. Portis, just letting you know that you don't have to stay on for the entire meeting unless you have another case that you want to hear. Okay,
You're
so
on mute.
okay, we will hear the, we will postpone the appeal and hear it at a later time. Okay, so we will get into our regular variance requests. Is that correct?
Yes, we're ready for the regular agenda.
Okay. The first case is 6465 North Hamilton Road. Will the applicant take yourself off of mute?
It's Chris Reinhardt. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, Chris, can you raise your right hand and testify that, swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Thank you. Okay, the city will present the case and then we'll hear from you.
And Madam Chair, may I also say that I did get an email that there may be some interested neighbors that would like to speak to this case. So before that, I will present 6465 North Hamilton Road is located at the southwest corner of North Hamilton Road and Warner Road. The site is within the Northland Community Council and Zone CPD Commercial Plan Development. The 1.529 acre site is undeveloped currently. To the west is a commercial strip center. To the south and west are multi-unit residential. And to the north is a fuel station and convenience store. The site was rezoned from limited apartment residential to commercial plan development district in 2003. The applicant proposes to develop this parcel with a parcel located directly to the south, which is the subject of a current rezoning from CPD to CPD, as a Turkey Hill retail convenience store. The site will also have on-site fuel sales, a car wash, and an eating and drinking establishment with a drive-through window. The current landowner, CVS, will not allow the northern parcel to be rezoned until the variances are approved. And believe it or not, there is language in the current CBD text that allows the Board of Zoning Adjustment to vary development standards. Typically, when you have a commercial plan development text, it's tied into the site, and the only way to make any changes to that site plan or that text are to go back through City Council. But as I stated, there's a section at the bottom of the development text, which I've copied on the third bullet point that says that the effect of the registered development plan, a development plan registered hereunder shall be binding upon the applicants, their successors, and assigns, and shall limit control to the issuance or validity of all certificates of zoning clearance. However, that can be varied by the Board of Zoning Adjustment, which is why if you look at the agenda heading, you'll see a code section that you probably have never seen before, 3361.07. So that variance is to increase the lot coverage from 70% to 74%, reduce the rear yard setback from 10 feet to 0 feet. Then they're asking for a typical parking variance, which is to reduce the minimum number of required parking spaces from 31 to 25. This site was reviewed by staff. The Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord Plan, which is what the Planning Division based their recommendation on, recommends multifamily residential at the site. Although given the existing CPD zoning and commercial development pattern of the North Hamilton and Warner Road intersection, staff could support a commercial proposal with a high level of design that enhances the area as a commercial node. Evaluation of this proposal was therefore done utilizing the West Village Neighborhood Center standards of the Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord. This would allow for neighborhood commercial uses and similar to the proposal. What that's saying is that the Planning Division would like a design that is comparable to the community commercial overlay, which brings the building to the front of Hamilton and to the corner of Warner, with the fuel pumps and the drive-through use to the rear. The Division of Traffic Management states that right-of-way dedication of 50 feet from the center line of Warner Road and 60 feet from the center line of North Hampton Road will be required, and the Northland Community Council recommends approval. City staff is recommending disapproval as the site is consistent with the applicable commercial design guidelines of the Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord and ultimately the community commercial development. Again, this accord makes reference to the T&D code standards, such as orientating uses to the pedestrian and locating the parking behind the front facade of the building as a general guidance. If this request is approved, staff notes that the applicant will provide 15 parking spaces on parcel to the south, and that would be on parcel ID 010292038. And with that, we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is Chris Reinhardt. I'm an attorney with Reinhardt Legal Services here in Columbus. And could you leave up the site plan? I'm a little new to WebEx, so sharing documents is I may have to ask for just technical guidance on that, Jamie, just to share them from my laptop. But give you a little bit of background and history on this site. And I'll try to get through in 5 minutes. Don't know if I'll get through completely in 5 minutes, but as Jamie mentioned, this entire site, including the parcel at issue, the parcel to the south, and a number of other parcels were rezoned back in 2003. In fact, the current parcel is already zoned under that zoning for the fuel use, for the fast food use, for the C4 convenience store uses. So there actually is no rezoning that's technically required for this particular parcel. Unfortunately, as we would normally do, we would take this parcel with the southern parcel, take it as one project, submit it as a rezoning as a CPD. Unfortunately, due to internal issues with CVS, who owns this current parcel, they would not allow us to rezone it. And that is why we have to go through the BZA process on this parcel while doing the rezoning on the southern parcel. Back in 2003, when this parcel was originally zoned, there was no mention of building location commitments, so there was no requirements within the zoning to locate buildings either on the frontage of either Warner Road or Hamilton Road. There were minimum building setbacks referenced, but there were no maximum building setbacks referenced. And on the southern parcel, likewise, there was no mention of building location commitments. Again, there were minimum building setbacks, but no maximum building setbacks. But because it did not allow for the car wash use, we had to actually do the rezoning on that one. So that's why you have the two different processes that are going forward. Back in 2003, the ordinance that approved of the commercial zoning that's in place went before the Rocky Fork Black Lick Accord panel, who's adopted the plan that's referenced by Jamie. The panel back then in 2003 recommended approval, and City Council adopted this zoning on April 1st of 2004. At around the same time, while this zoning was being approved, the Rocky Fork Black Lick Accord was amending its previous plan and incorporating the changes that Jamie is referencing, as discussed by the planning staff. It's unclear why, if this plan was in the process at the time that the zoning was adopted, that this plan was not referenced as part of the zoning, but it was not. And it's unclear if this actual plan has been adopted by the city of Columbus, because the plan itself doesn't have an official adoption date on it, although I assume that it was. So, but fast forward, assuming that plan was adopted, we go to 2008. On this very same parcel that you're looking at now, there was a CVS that was proposed to be constructed. CVS submitted a variance application to construct that store with a drive-through, but they also needed some variances. And so they submitted a variance application requesting to increase the maximum size of the building from 10,000 square feet to 13,000 square feet to increase lot coverage and I believe to reduce some parking. The site plan that was submitted with that plan shows the building located in the middle of this parcel. It was not fronting on either Hamilton Road. It was not fronting on Warner Road. And so therefore that application suffered the same objection that Mr. Freeze and planning are raising through this particular project, because it was technically also not in compliance with the Rocky Fork Black Lick Accord panel plan. That recommendation, staff back in 2008 recommended approval of that variance request so that the building could be constructed in the middle of this parcel with parking lining both Warner Road and Hamilton Road. And when I asked for an explanation as to why there was a discrepancy between the recommendation on this project and the negative recommendation on this project and the positive recommendation in 2008 within the past week, planning indicated they had no explanation as to why what happened in 2008 happened. So when we fast
Well,
forward,
I can clarify that, Chris, if you'd like.
Jamie, please let me
For the
continue
board,
my
I can
presentation.
clarify the discrepancy of 2008 versus 2020 when you're done.
Okay, so we move forward to tonight's project. When we presented this project through the entire process, both parcels, so whether it was the rezoning parcel or to the south or the variance parcel here to the north, whenever we've appeared in front of any committee, we've always presented both parcels because the goal has always been to view this as one project. So ideally, to give you an example, when we went to the Rocky Black Fork Accord panel on the southern parcel, where planning staff was present, and I believe Dave Paul is here as well, and he sits on that board as well. We presented the entire plan. We showed this or a variation of it at that point, I believe. Showed the entire site plan. We went through, showed renderings, elevations, all of those issues, and asked not only the staff but the members of the board, any residents that were present, whether there were any questions, concerns, issues, whatnot, with respect to either one of these parcels, because we wanted this to be a unified project. And before both of those panels, the Northland Community Council on this particular parcel and the Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord panel, neither one raised any issues or concerns with regard to building location, or made any reference to the Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord panel plan itself. And so while Jamie will probably acknowledge that this issue was initially raised back in January, these meetings occurred over the spring and the summer. And so as a result, from our perspective, those issues had been addressed and resolved. And obviously through what was a miscommunication or misunderstanding, at least on our part, that issue may not have been resolved because it came up again within the past few weeks when we were getting ready for this meeting. So, but going through the variances that are being requested, the reason for those variances and the reason why we're asking for them is largely due to, if you look at the very northern part, up by Warner Road, if you see where the entrance is to the site, when we reviewed this with the Division of Traffic, actually asked us to relocate the existing drive, which is actually just a straight drive from Warner Road all the way into the existing shopping center. And they wanted us to relocate that drive to the east, so closer to the intersection, so that it would line up with the drive to the north, which I believe accesses the UDF parcel, so as to minimize any traffic conflict and things like that. It also expands and widens that entrance to allow for right and left-hand turns, as well as the entrance. And so in so moving that, that obviously compressed the site a little bit, and it caused our lot coverage issues to go above what was required for the site. I can't remember all that. I think it was at the same time, we also had a request to eliminate the bypass lane required for drive-throughs and things like that. So the initial variances were a result of the entrance. And then as we went through the process, we tried to address.
Mr. Reinhardt, your 5 minutes is up.
Yeah, I'm almost done. So
your 5 minutes are up. Well, they've been up. I've tried to wait and try to let you kind of conclude, but it's only fair that we administer the time for everyone. So you will have chance after we hear from the community to close up any open argument.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It'll only take me 60 seconds or less to wrap it up.
So Jamie, I have a question for you, Jamie.
Sure.
So you started out by saying we have the right to change. So 3361.07. While I recognize that might be a right for us to do that, are we setting a precedent if we do that? We've never done it before since I've been around. Are we setting a precedent that might encourage other people to ask us to do the same thing? That's my first question.
Not at all. The only reason that this is even before the Board of Zoning Adjustment is because that a crafty attorney put in that language that gave the board the right, or I'm sorry, gave the applicant the right to go before the board rather than rezone it. You will almost never see this again, and this is only the second time I've seen it, because the first time was in 2008 when CVS came forward, and now Mr. Reinhardt with Turkey Hill. So it's not setting a precedent at all. In fact, it's completely legit and just a phenomenon.
Okay, and so planning's only reason for saying no is because this is contrary to the Rocky Fork Blacklick Accord?
Well, they've adopted community commercial overlay standards. It's not codified, but those are the standards that they are using for their design practicum, which, if I recall, the property to the northeast went through a rezoning, and they had to design their standards to the CCO overlay, building up front, parking in the back. So to answer your question, yes, the only reason they're saying no is because of the layout of the site where the pumps and the retail store are located.
Right, but those are things, so we know that there are oftentimes plans that are older. Are we saying that because of this plan that's older in place and what they want to do being different is your only reason for saying no or recommending disapproval?
Correct. And as far as the older plan, this is the older plan that was adopted in 2008. The new recommendation, based on new policy guidelines, is that buildings be designed with community commercial overlay standards, i.e. buildings out front, parking, circulation, gas pumps in the rear.
And so presumably people have gone over this thing tirelessly, I'm guessing, to try to move these things in line with what the plan calls for. Is it a burden? Is it simply a burden for the developer to do what you're asking, or is it physically impossible?
I believe that Mr. Reinhardt should answer that question.
Okay, you can answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to. In trying to accomplish what transportation wants us to do by reconfiguring, and just so you know, transportation, it's not all of staff that's opposed to this. Transportation is still in favor of this because they want the relocation of that drive. It's only planning that's opposed to it, and it's because of that plan. But it is functionally impossible for us to put in a drive-through in that building and have enough space with the canopy to bring in a truck and whatnot to get them in and out of there safely, along with that reconfigured drive in order to put the building up on the street. It's just functionally impossible.
Well, there is a simple solution. You cannot have a drive-through restaurant attached to your convenience store.
Yeah, and there you're telling us as a city that we cannot legally exercise or use one of the uses
That's not what he said at all. That's not what he said at all. We're not going to get into that debate. Well, he's answering my questions, and I appreciate your answer. So thank you very much.
Mr. Jones had some initial questions for the city, I believe. Do we have questions of the applicant, or do we want to hear from any community members that are here to speak about this application? Okay, if there's any community members that want to speak about this application, can you take yourself off of mute and identify yourself?
Hi, Joe Santillo. I'm on the board with Glen Abbey Condominiums.
Okay.
But first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to participate in this, and hopefully.
I need you to swear to your testimony, please, sir. Can you raise your right hand?
Oh, sir.
Yes. Do you swear that the testimony you get tonight be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please say it. I do.
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyhow, our community is located directly across Hamilton Road and slightly south of where the car wash would go. So obviously we have an interest in what it looks like and the impact it has on us. The community, we're fairly small. We've got 64 units. Our only entrance and exit from our community is onto Hamilton Road. So we have to deal with the traffic that's out there. And just for reference, the average age in our community is probably 60 plus. We've got several areas that whether the design gets changed to the overlay look or not, we've got several issues that concern us. I'll briefly cover those and then go back as time permits, and we could talk or add a little bit to them. We're concerned about traffic issues. Obviously, all the building in our area, the traffic has been growing steadily. It's going to, not just the commercial, but with all the residential, there's going to be a lot more people going up and down. And it's already a concern on Hamilton Road. We've had a number of accidents right outside our community. And it's a burden right now trying to get in and out during rush hour. A lot of people that want to go south from our community now will turn north and do a loop around just to get out during rush hour because of the situation. Possibly I assume at some point they'll be widening Hamilton Road. Possibly we could get a turning lane in or something, but I'm not sure if that's something that Turkey Hill would get involved with or not. Some of the concerns about widening the road would be what direction they're going to go. We're fairly close to Hamilton Road on the east side. If it looks like they're right away on the west side, so we assumed it would go that way. And the community overlay, I think, might impact that. If they're going to move everything out to the street, are they going to have room to widen the road to the west once they decide to do that? If they try to go east, it is literally going to be on the front porch of a couple of our units. We're also concerned about pedestrian access. If the idea of the overlay is to make it a walk up to type of shopping like you would downtown, that type of thing, there's no sidewalk on our side, on the east side of Hamilton Road we could go up to Warner and cross over safely if there were a sidewalk there, but right now that's not an option. There are no crosswalks, so we'd be crossing Hamilton Road, and with the increase in traffic and all that, safety becomes an even bigger issue. We do have some concerns about noise and lighting disturbance with the old design or the new one. We've seen the plans that they proposed, and I know they're doing a lot to try to reduce that. I know there's a 75 decibel level. We're not sure how that's going to be measured or where it's going to be measured. They talk about the property's edge, but I know that's about like listening to a vacuum cleaner. So we do have some concerns about that. And if the overlay goes in and they move the buildings closer to the street, obviously it's just going to make the noise and light and the rest of that an even bigger issue for us. I'm trying to be brief and just rush through these, but those are the major issues. Basically, the entrance and exit, the safety issues out in front of our unit. I do know one of the community members we have on right now was in an accident there about 2 weeks ago. So good news is she wasn't injured and she's got a new car, but bad news is she had to go through the ordeal. So. Thought I heard somebody say my time was up.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I think that about covers the major issues. Traffic, trying to get a crosswalk, how they're going to widen, are they going to go west, those types of things, making it safe for pedestrian traffic. And obviously we'd like to keep it looking nice and as quiet as we can. So I think that's all I have to offer.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here that wants to speak about this application?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, can you what's your name?
This is Dave Paul. I'm Chair of the Northland Community Council Development Committee.
Okay, can you raise your hand and you swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate the committee's time, and we do have a long agenda, so I'll try to make it quick. We met with Mr. Reinhardt concerning this application on 2 occasions on August 26th, and again on September 30th. During the first meeting, he reviewed the history of the site. We talked again about the specifics of the north parcel, but in particular, of course, we were concerned because the BZA application, sorry, give me a second here. The BZA application pertains to the southern site and the car wash. The issue that we had during the first meeting had to do with the drive-through lane and the fact that there was no escape lane. Got a lot of echo. There we go. There was no escape lane provided for the drive-through. We basically asked Mr. Reinhardt to talk with his client and see if that could be re-engineered, and it was. When they came back on September 30th, we reviewed again the variances that were being requested specifically for the drive-through lane. That change that they made basically eliminated the need for that variance. The remaining variances for parking spaces and for the lot coverage and rear yard parking setback, we felt were appropriate. So at our September meeting, our committee approved 13-0 the recommendation that the application be approved. We did not pick up the question, by the way, nor would we have normally done so, of what the Rocky Fork Accord standards were. Rocky Fork Accord does handle rezonings in this region. MCC handles other cases such as variance. So the recommendations of the Rocky Fork Accord and the overlay and so forth did not come up during our discussions. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So I'm looking at, and I don't see an escape lane.
If
Phil, bring up the site plan.
Who are you asking that of?
Here we go.
So that's different than what's in our package. Okay.
Chris, can I ask Mr. Reinhardt to point out the escape lane?
Yeah, I don't know if you can blow that up at all, but it runs parallel to the actual drive-through lane.
Yeah,
So
I see it now.
so where you see the cars stacking, it's the lane right beside it. So and in fact, in trying to accommodate a lot of this stuff, we actually reduced the number of pumps. Originally, I think there was 16 pumps, and I think we're down to 12 on this design. So we've been trying. And I don't know if you want me to address any of the issues raised by Mr. Santillo, but
Not yet, Mr. Reinhardt. We'll wait till
okay, that's fine.
conclude.
That's fine.
Is there anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry. Were you finished, Mr. Paul?
I am. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak about this application? Please identify yourself. Okay, giving you a couple more seconds in case you're on mute. Okay, hearing no one. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Reinhardt. Go ahead and make your conclusions. And
Yeah, so just wanted to say we've been in extensive discussions with the residents just to kind of address some of those concerns, and so my understanding is they kind of want the screening. They don't necessarily the buildings being up on the street is probably more of a concern related to the sound issues, but we've communicated that we'll either meet or exceed the noise ordinance requirements. Happy to screen it off and whatnot. And really what we want to find out tonight is if we don't get a vote tonight, just a consensus from the board. If this planning issue is, because we have a recommendation of approval from basically everybody, even on the southern one, there's no objection to it at all. The only objection that we've received at this point is the planning department's objection based upon compliance with this plan that nobody else seems to be concerned about over the 8 or 9 months that we've been having these discussions. So it's really us getting a sense from the board is if that's something that's really, really important to the board, we're happy to go back and try to take a look at it. We think it's functionally impossible to try to put those buildings on the street. But if it's really a consensus of the board for us to try to do that, we're happy to try to go back and take a look and see, one more time if we can do that. So that's kind of where we're at.
I have one more question for Jamie. So the setback from 10 to 0 feet for the rear yard.
Who is that?
So the 10 to 0 for the rear setback, is that what's adjacent to the condo community?
No, the condo community is to the southeast. The 10-foot setback would be to the west.
And so who's behind that?
Looks like a commercial strip center.
So okay. So when we do that 0 lot line, for lack of a better term, we're not impacting any residential stuff?
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Can I give you a little clarification on that? The reason that we asked it to go back to 0, if you look on that site plan, we weren't sure. Originally it was, I think we requested like 8 foot 6 inches. I think there will be a rear yard setback We just don't know exactly if it's going to be 5 feet, 5 feet, 5 inches, something to that effect. So we wanted to have that flexibility built in, which is why we asked it to go to 0, since it is adjacent to the existing shopping center.
It's no problem. Thank you.
Jamie,
I'll call the question if there are no
I
other
want to
questions.
ask. I got another question. Jamie, you asked. You mentioned that that somebody else was held to the standards. You said a parcel to the east.
To the north and the east. Hold on a second. Mr. Jones, your time's up. Sorry. Yeah, the parcel to the north and the east. I'll see if I can share my screen here.
About the PNC ATM United Dairies Farmers.
I am talking about this parcel here. It was rezoned in 2018. It's not been developed yet.
Oh, okay.
The rezoning on this parcel brings the buildings up to the foreground of Hampton Road. There is you're correct. There's a gas station here that is developed, much like the way Mr. Reinhardt wants to develop the
Right.
UDF with the pump out front and the building in the back.
I guess my only comment is that looking at this area and this whole corner, it doesn't seem like anybody's currently meeting criteria of the Blackwick Accord or what they were looking for.
Yeah, it looks like this parcel here was rezoned in 2002 and developed shortly thereafter. This one again was in 2018. It hasn't been built yet, but the legislation has been approved, and then this has not been developed either. So that is the guiding design plan.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, do we have any further questions?
Yeah. And again, like I said, it's just the question of if the board's will is, hey, go back and take a look at it again, or we take a vote tonight.
Got it.
I'll call the question.
Okay, question been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Malika,
Fine. I say yes.
all right. Mr. Wobelli,
Yes.
Mr. Demora, Mr. Demora,
Sorry, I had myself muted. Yes.
okay. Mr. Jones,
Yes.
and Chair Palmer Bailey.
So I do want to say that the board generally does like to follow the plans, the community plans as they're set forth. But I think on this case, at least I was convinced by by traffic wanting the roadway, the access, I should say, and Mr. Reinhardt's testimony that it was physically impossible to do that without placing the building and the pumps like it is. So that I'll say yes, and variance will be granted.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Case 2382 West Dublin Granville Road. Is the applicant here? Please unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Jeff Brown, attorney for the applicant.
Great. Can you raise your right hand, and you swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear from the city, and then we'll come back to you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2382 West Dublin Granville Road is located on the north side of West Dublin Granville Road, approximately 60 feet east of Thompson Street. The site is within the Far Northwest Area Commission and zoned LC4 commercial. The site is developed with an existing eating and drinking establishment. Surrounding uses include an auto body shop to the west, an oil change business to the east, and a brewery and restaurant to the south. The parcel to the north is zoned in the RR Rural Residential District. The applicant proposes to legitimize the outside area.
Oh my goodness.
Who's that? I think everyone's on mute now. Again, the applicant proposes to legitimize the outside area to the north of the site, which has been converted to a patio, unfortunately, though, without zoning clearance. The applicant requests variances to reduce the minimum number of additional parking spaces from 19 to 0, to reduce the minimum parking setback from 25 feet to 0 feet, and to reduce the vision clearance triangle from 10 feet by 10 feet to 7 feet by 7 feet for the southeast corner of the driveway. The Northwest plan states that parking reduction should be evaluated based off the extent of the variance requested, size and nature of the use. While the proposed reduction can be supported under these parameters, the plan also stresses the importance of pedestrian connectivity, landscaping and screening of parking lots, and the incorporation of bicycle parking. For these reasons, planning requests these elements be incorporated into the parking lot design. The Division of Traffic Management states that right-of-way dedication of 60 feet from the center line of West Dublin Granville Road will be required per CC 409.17. This is what is triggering an even further parking setback, which is the second variance being requested. The access point to West Dublin Granville Road will need to be limited to a maximum width of 35 feet, and the FAR Northwest Area Commission recommends approval. The right-of-way dedication requested by the Division of Traffic Management, as I said earlier, will result in a reduced number of parking spaces and a parking setback of 0 feet. Staff can recommend approval based on the following condition. Staff requests that the board stamp the site plan to ensure the applicant will provide headlight screening of parking lots and bicycle parking. And since this screening will be in the right-of-way, screening will defer to the Department of Public Service for their recommendation of approval or disapproval of the screening. With that, we'll turn it over to the applicant.
I'm Jeff Brown, attorney with Smith & Hale. As you may have noticed, you've had several of these cases dealing with patios. The fire department has been going around and checking them. A patio was there when my client moved his business in there. So when he talked to the fire department, he sent his architect down to get a site plan approved. And as a result of that, there were a couple variances, as Jamie has outlined. We talked with traffic. We worked on the right-of-way because obviously you can see from the site the patio is to the north, the building is in the middle, and what parking you have is out front. So we were able to work with the city to try to maximize keeping as many spaces as we can, and that's the result. And we're fine putting the landscaping in. I think as Jamie indicated, that's subject to the city right-of-way people saying that we can do that. So as long as everybody's clear about that, if the city will approve it, we'll install it as shown on the drawing. We presented this to the neighborhood group and they recommended approval, and I'll answer any other questions that you may all have.
And this is the final plan that can be stamped, Mr. Brown?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant from the board? Okay, is there anybody here from the community that wants to speak? I'm sorry, anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Please identify yourself. Okay. I hear no one. Okay, are we ready to call the question?
Call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Wildelli,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, your variances are granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is 1364 Ida Avenue. 1364 Ida Avenue. Will the applicant take yourself off mute and identify yourself? Please take yourself off of mute, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I was using the wrong mouse. My name is Scott McKnight. I'm with Kramer Engineers.
Okay, how are you? If you will raise your right hand and you swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, please state I do.
I do.
Thank you. We will hear from the city and then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 1364 Ida Avenue is located on the north side of Ida Avenue, approximately 420 feet west of Northwest Boulevard. The site is within the 5th by Northwest Area Commission and zoned R4 residential. The site is developed with an existing 2-unit dwelling with an attached 2-story garage. Surrounding uses are a mix of residential single and multi-unit dwellings. The applicant proposes to convert storage space in the 2nd story of the attached 2-story garage to living space and requests variances to conform the existing conditions. To reduce the lot width from 50 feet to 45 feet 1 inch, to reduce the western side yard from 5 feet to 3 feet 10 inches, and the following variances are being triggered due to the addition of a 3rd dwelling. They are to reduce the required lot area for 3 units, which is 2,500 square feet per unit, from 7,500 square feet to 6,091 square feet, to reduce the aisle width for two-way travel from 20 feet to 11 feet 3 inches, and to allow a gravel surface for parking and maneuvering. The C2P2 standards recommend the use of high-quality building materials and front facades that provide aesthetic appeal through appropriate use and placement of doors and windows. Planning staff notes that the garage is existing and has no further comment. The Division of Traffic Management states that the existing gravel drive will need to be paved with an approved hard surface. The 5th by Northwest Area Commission recommends disapproval. City staff has a mixed recommendation. Staff notes that the variances to reduce the lot width and side yards, increase lot coverage, and to allow a gravel surface are being requested to conform to existing conditions. The variances to a reduced aisle and to not provide adequate maneuvering are being triggered by the addition of a 3rd unit. Staff is recommending, based on the Division of Traffic Management, disapproval to the request for a gravel surface for maneuvering. With that, we'll turn over to the applicant.
Thank you.
So one question first. Jamie, you're saying that staff is only disapproving the surface variance, that's it?
Correct. That is, we're recommending approval to all variances except for the gravel surface.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead, Mr. McKnight.
Well, then I'll just address that one. When this garage was built, 2005, I believe, it was approved. There was no variance requested or no requirement at that time for the paving. It was left as gravel. And then the current owner, Stephanie Matson, she did not know of this, and so now that she's trying to develop that existing 3rd floor, the parking had reared its head, so to speak. I don't know. I guess nobody really knows why it wasn't paved when it was built in the first place. But now that the owner wants to develop that top floor, the parking variance was requested to be applied for. And secondly, after we filled out our paperwork and sent everything in, I followed up with an additional letter. I did a very unscientific way of measuring with a level and laser. If I put the level on the alley behind the property and shoot the laser and go measure the distance, for the most part, it's level to the west of the garage. And as you travel east, it starts to dip. And it's using that criteria. If we do pave it, we're going to be sloping it in some places towards the garage, if not in other places just level, and we were worried about watershed going towards the garage as opposed to away from the garage. There's no real good way, either way, to mound it in the middle and try and slope it to the side. It's just a very flat lot with dips into towards the east side, which would be the northeast side of the garage. And since it's an existing gravel, we're not requesting to put new gravel in. It's an existing gravel drive that allows the water to percolate down naturally as opposed to sheet runoff towards the garage at this point. Those 2 items are the reason we're asking for the variance. The paving variance, I'm sorry.
So are you asking to have them separated?
Good for you, Millie. Good for you, George, too, yeah.
Are you asking to have the variances considered separately? Because we have a recommendation from the city staff, and the only way for us to do one without the other, you'd have to want those to be separated.
Well, before I answer that, is it my understanding that the city staff approves of the other 4? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Would it be advantageous to separate them? Because if you vote no to paving, does that kill the whole application?
Theoretically.
I believe that's what Mr. Jones is suggesting, that you separate them.
I would like to separate them then.
So you want us to issue a vote on the surfacing by itself and then the other 4 variants together?
Yes, please.
The board members, do you have any questions about the us separating them like this, or do you have any questions about the other variants being requested?
Madam Chair, I do. I'd like to know, did the commission, Northwest Area, Fifth by Northwest Area Commission, did they disapprove of the whole thing or one of certain of the variants? Does anybody have that answer?
I can answer that. They did not like the variance for the maneuverability in part 2A aisle width. They were very much upset.
I can't understand. So I'm hearing what the static. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I still hear a bunch of other stuff at the same time.
Somebody's.
You hear me now?
I mean, it's not you. I hear other things at the same time, so I'm not hearing you.
I've got everyone muted other than yourself, Eleanor, and Mr. McKnight.
Perfect. It's fixed now. Go ahead.
All right. The area commission, they were disapproving of the maneuverability. They didn't like the fact that somebody would have a skinny area to have to back out and around to get to the alley. The other ones were actually never discussed. And when I asked them to do what we're doing now separately, they said they don't have a mechanism to do that, but in their write-up, they would distinguish between all the variances, which was never done to my knowledge. But also, again, the maneuverability was the only one that was discussed. So anything they had to say about the other 4, I don't know. They canned it based on the maneuverability. They didn't like the idea of a car, either one of the side stalls of the garage, having to back out and do a fish between the cars.
I don't disagree with them. Go ahead.
That's the only thing they ever said negative about this project. And actually, it's the only thing they discussed.
Mr. Moore, in some of the emails I saw, I know that the area commission was upset with the fact that this garage was built to the size and the fact that it's a 2-family being converted to a 3-family, all of which are legitimate legal conforming issues. I'm sorry, having a 2-family with an attached garage is totally legal. The only thing triggering anything is the conversion of the storage space in the second story of the garage to a 3rd unit. So I think maybe the area commission thought that this was not an existing non-conform or not an existing development, and they thought it was being proposed or what. So there were a lot of emails back and forth between the applicant, myself, and the area commission trying to figure. Or I'm sorry, between staff here, the area commission, and myself trying to figure out how this got approved, and it was approved legitimately.
Okay. Thank you.
That approval, I just want to reiterate, that approval was all done prior to this current owner. She stepped into this condition, and unbeknownst to her, she went ahead and is trying to build it out into a rental property. And all these variances, some of which should have been taken care of, have reared their heads.
Board, do we want to speak to the surface issue? What is your thoughts?
I'm a no on it.
So am I.
Yeah, I'm a no on it too. I just haven't been convinced that there's a hardship there that prevents the owner from actually taking the steps that are required by code.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So are we ready to vote? Oh, sorry, is there anybody from the community that wants to, did I ask this question already? Speak about this application? Please unmute yourself and identify your name.
I do. Hi, I'm Stephanie Matson,
Okay.
the owner of the property.
Can you raise your hand and swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Please say I do.
I do.
Go ahead.
So I just want to thank you for taking the time to review this. As Scott said, I bought the house in 2016, which was 11 years years after this garage was built. And I apologize for laughing with the sound issues. I'm a high school teacher. And so it flashed me back to when we were on remote, which was terrible. Luckily, we're on hybrid now. So it's much better. So I'm just hopeful to get this project approved. It's been a long and arduous journey. So I'm hopeful that we can get it approved today. So that's, I think, all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
If the paving is denied, which sounds likely, if they go ahead and pave it, do they have to? They don't have to come back for any. They just move ahead and pave it. Do they have to make any presentation to zoning?
No, you'll need the permit, and that'll be approved with the permit, your building permit.
Oh,
When you
the
get your
paving's part of the. No,
paved, then it'll be approved.
no, I understand the paving's part of that. I just want to make sure that I don't miss a step and not come before you folks again.
No, you don't have to come before us when you're complying. Okay, is there anybody else from the community to speak on this application? Okay, seeing none, are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Oh, we're calling the roll. Which one?
Can I
I'm
ask a
sorry, you're
question?
right.
Can I ask a question before you take the roll? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't hear. I heard a couple no's, but because the lots are small and there's also a desire that it's grass and gravel naturally drains. The heat island, the whole island, I'm sorry, the alley behind it is up against the strip mall, but it's nothing but pavement back there. And from an aesthetic point of view, they were just hoping to keep the natural conditions that were there. I mean, in addition to the watershed and stuff like that, it's going to be nothing but pavement back there, and it's.
Are you still talking about the issue we already talked about?
Paving?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I heard a couple no's. I just asked for clarification of what is it just because it's required, or did somebody else have a particular reason for the no? That's all.
Well, we're about to vote on it, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so to clarify, let's vote on the variances. The first tranche, which is going to be the width requirements, the area, lot area requirements, the side yard, and the maneuvering.
Any aisle.
Okay. And then we'll vote.
Okay.
So let's vote on that first, please.
I'll call the question on those variances being requested.
Questions, Nicole, please call the roll.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Mr. Wildelli,
Yes.
and Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, those variances are granted. Now we'll call the roll on the surface area. Please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Jones,
No.
Mr. Maleka,
No.
Mr. Wildelli,
No.
Mr. Demora,
No.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
No, that variance is denied. Okay, we will move on to our next case. $3,600 Johnny Appleseed Court. Will the applicant take yourself off of mute and state your name for the record?
Yes, Josh Fravel here for the applicant. I'm trying to figure out how to switch my camera because right now you're seeing the back of my desk. So I'm going to pick my computer up and I don't know if you can see me.
Can't see you. Can you raise your right hand, please, sir, and swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, we will hear from the city first and then we'll hear from you.
Thank
I
you.
think there might be some other people that want to speak to this.
Okay.
Joe, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Joe Russell.
Joe Place as well. Yeah, we're both here.
You have to be sworn in if you're going to speak.
I'll swear them in when they speak, Jamie.
Okay, all right. Then we will proceed. 3600 Johnny Appleseed Court is located at the terminus of Johnny Appleseed Court, approximately 1,300 feet east of Westerville Road. The site is within the Northland Community Council and is zoned LM Limited Manufacturing District. The 8.9 plus or minus acre site consists of 2 lots. Lot A is approximately 4.7 acres and Lot B is just over 4 acres. Each is undeveloped. The applicant proposes to locate a tree care and consulting business on the property where timber is brought to the site to sort for resale and processing. The processing of timber that has no resale value will involve cutting down the timbers and occasional mulching. The applicant is requesting a special permit for this disposal activity in accordance with section 3389.04 for a compost facility, as the general nature of the processing will be very similar in variances to allow gravel parking and circulation area. I'm sorry, they're also asking for variances to allow gravel parking and a circulation area. Variances to reduce the minimum distance requirement for a more objectionable use to a residentially zoned district from 600 feet to 0 feet, and to reduce the open storage of materials from 100 feet of any residential district to 20 feet. The Northland Area Plan recommends a warehouse flex for this location and notes that that particular attention should be paid to screening and buffering between commercial and residential development. Enhanced landscaping mitigates negative impacts between the proposed use and existing residential developments and is therefore supported by planning. Additionally, planning has no comment regarding the gravel surface and it is not mentioned in the Northland Area Plan. The Division of Traffic Management states that with the proposed building construction, a sidewalk will need to be provided along the Johnny Appleseed Court frontage of the site, and a pedestrian connection will need to be provided between the building and the right-of-way. Division of Traffic Management requests that a portion of the driveway within 50 feet of right-of-way will need to be paved with an approved surface. And the Northland Community Council voted to recommend approval with one condition, that the applicant commit to extend the sidewalk along the frontage of the site of Johnny Appleseed Court where none currently exists. This includes the frontage of the area shown as Lot 11 on the site. And if Mr. Paul, if you have anything to add to that, I'm sure you'll have your time to speak. So city staff is recommending approval, as stated in the Northland Area Plan. Enhanced landscaping mitigates negative impacts between the proposed use and existing residential developments. It is therefore, staff can recommend approval with the following conditions. And we're just reiterating the conditions from above. Number one, that staff requests additional landscaping on the eastern portion of the site plan and along the water frontage, and that 50 feet of the driveway from the right-of-way will need to be paved with an approved surface. With that, we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, do you agree to the conditions set forth by the city?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you. This application is for an existing business. Russell Tree Experts currently has a site that is very close to this one that is actually in Blendon Township. They've grown through the years and have almost outgrown that site. This lot has had some zoning issues in the past, and they've been very proactive in cleaning those issues up. What we're proposing is a building here and a small mulching area and storage of timbers and parking for the trucks that are used for the tree removal business. Our proposed building is on the map along with the mulching area there. We're going to pave the first part of the driveway going out to Johnny Appleseed Court. But really, this property has great screening as it is, with the blue area shown on the site plan that you're seeing now is all wooded. And it's all wooded back there. There's a pond that you can see there that's kind of separating this from most of the people that are on Johnny Appleseed Court. And actually the owner of Lot 13 is Ferguson Construction, who we are in talks with now about actually using them to build the proposed building. So the community is behind this. We've already been to Northland, who has approved this with the exception of us adding a sidewalk there on the actual court that would be on the front part there. But really, my client is just looking to expand their business, put a building here. As far as mulching, mulching is only done a couple times a year and probably only 20 days out of the year. So we're not going to have a big disruptive operation. This is really a staging area for them to have the trucks, for them to have the timber, and to grow their business. I have on here with me Joe Clace with Plan for Land. He developed the site plan that you guys are seeing for us. Also on with us today, you will see Joe Russell. He's the owner of Juniper Holdings, who's the entity that is looking to purchase this lot from the current owner, and also the owner of Russell Tree Experts. And I have them both on here to answer any specific questions you may have about the tree operations or what we may be doing here. But we've been working with Jamie on this for probably close to 6 months on trying to make sure we addressed all of your concerns. So we're here and this is our plan, and we're excited to move forward with buying this piece of property and turning it into a useful property.
Okay, let me go ahead and get, you said Mr. Russell and somebody else that was here to answer questions, if I could get them to raise their hands. And do you swear the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
I do.
Board members, do we have any questions for any of these applicants?
The residential that we're set back from. I don't
The
see it.
residential property is located to the south. If we pull back up the site plan, this is Joe Russell. Hi, everyone. So directly to the south, there is a portion of a apartment complex that has property that extends back. Yeah, there's a good. So do you see the woods beyond the southern blue line that represents the property line?
Yeah.
That woods is actually residential zoning, but it can't be built upon because it's in the floodplain.
Okay. That's, as I said, I don't see any buildings next to it. So, okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
Do we have anybody here from the community that wishes to speak about this application? Can you please take your phone off of mute and identify yourself by name?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Dave Paul with the Northland Community Council again.
Okay, you've already been sworn in. Please go ahead, Mr. Paul.
Thank you. Our Northland Community Council Development Committee met with Mr. Fravel and with his client, Mr. Russell and Mr. Clace, in July, actually, July 29th. We reviewed this application. As we discussed with the applicant, this site is one that we've taken special interest in because of some problems at this location before that have nothing to do with the current use. But this site is in a unique position to affect some of the operations of other businesses in this commercial industrial court. And so we were very anxious to see a good use there. Our committee was impressed with what the applicant and Mr. Fravel presented. We do support this use. We support the variances they've requested. I believe that our sole condition is in line with what transportation also requested about sidewalks along the frontage of the site. And I think the applicant has committed to do that. Our support for this application was 14-0. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Paul. Is there anybody else from the community here to speak on this application?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just have a quick point of clarification that maybe Brandon can address. As I stated in my report, the Northland Community Council voted recommend approval with the condition that the applicant commit to extend the sidewalk along the frontage of the site on Johnny Appleseed Court where none currently exists, including the frontage of the area known as Lot 11. Now, it's my understanding that the sidewalk will probably be in the right-of-way, and I don't know that staff or the Board of Zoning Adjustment can approve that or would make that condition. So, Brandon, do you know if that is in the right-of-way or if you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, they're required to have sidewalk in front of their site. That's just the city code 2105. So
Okay,
public
so
service will require that. It's not really,
You
I mean,
require
it can
that
be there.
Okay, so I won't add that to the board order. It's just going to be a given that you'll have to do that.
Okay,
Okay.
Great.
thank you. Okay, I don't see anyone else. Are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question is called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Mr. Weldelli,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you. Or I should say special permit.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, case 627, 655. That's interesting, North Cassidy Avenue. If the applicant can take yourself off of mute and state your name for the record.
Hello, Kim Mechanic, the architect on the project.
Okay, can you raise your right hand? And you swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth? State I do.
I do.
Okay, we'll hear from the city and then we'll come back to you, Miss.
All right. Thank you very much. This case is BZA 20-055, 627 through 655 North Cassidy Avenue. The site is developed with a commercial building that was constructed in 1950. It has, I believe, 3 units that are occupied by offices at the present time. And then to the southwest corner of the building, they wish to convert that area into a private gym. And so when this application first came in, we thought that the only variance that was going to be needed was for parking, but it developed into quite a few other variances as well. So let me just go through those real quick. So the first variance is to reduce the minimum number of additional parking spaces from 29 to 0. They have 23 parking spaces on the site today, or if it's redeveloped. Then they need to reduce the parking setback line along Cassidy Avenue and along Margaret Street from 10 feet to 0. They need variances for landscaping and screening, for reducing the number of shade trees and landscape islands from 2 to 1, to not provide the parking setback and perimeter landscaping along North Cassidy Avenue, and to not provide screening along North Cassidy Avenue. The next variance is for landscaping, and that's to not provide landscaping between the building line and the street line. The next variance is for maneuvering. They would not be able to provide sufficient maneuvering space, which is 20 feet for 9 spaces along Margaret Street. And then finally, a parking space reduction for the length of dimension of 9 parking spaces along Margaret Street, which is along the north side of the property, from 18 feet to 7 feet. Quite a laundry list of variances. I think this site plan has probably been reworked 4 or 5 times, maybe more. I'm not sure, but I know there was a lot of effort put in here. But the main issue remains parking. That's probably the one that stands out the most. By the way, a lot of these variances were as a result of the fact that there's a plan to widen North Cassidy Avenue and then put in bike lanes and things like that. And so that drove most of the other variances, because they weren't allowed to maintain current conditions. So Having said that, city staff position is that we are recommending approval of this request. It is for a conversion of 2,800 square feet of a 23,801 square foot commercial building into a gymnasium. They'll have 23 parking spaces on site. We figure that together a total of 52 spaces would be required for all the uses combined, including the converted space to gymnasium. So they're providing approximately 44% of the required parking on site. We are asking them they're working on an agreement, I can tell you that. I don't know if that came about or not, but I certainly encouraged it to find parking across the street because, as the Traffic Management Division points out, that there's really no on-street parking available unless you do it illegally. So the city staff has been encouraging that they try to find some parking someplace else for as many spaces as they can possibly manage. And I imagine that the applicant can speak to that a little more clearly. So having said that, we do recommend approval. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Mechanic, do you have any additional information to share specifically on the parking issue?
I think there's really not much else to share. I mean, we were dealing with an existing condition that trying to make it, have a viable tenant and, properly develop the area. And then also work with during the process for the variance, we had found out about the road improvements. So, trying to be planning ahead and working with that is, obviously in our plan too. And we are in process trying to get the get a parking agreement across the street, since they do have quite a bit of space and appear to have some availability. So that's still in process. As soon as we have more information on that, I will provide that to the city.
Do you think that you have enough parking for the facility that you're trying to build there?
Yes, even though you see the term gymnasium used, it's not an open gym. It's a by appointment personal training studio. So we're really not anticipating, any issues as far as that goes.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Go ahead.
So I know oftentimes variances are triggered and parking calculations are done based on the square footage of a facility. Is there any reason, since to Dave's point, you guys went through so many iterations of this thing, that you didn't say, like we do in a church, we talk about there's so much congregation space, so you need X, and so much of it might be administrative space, so you need Y for parking. Why wouldn't you do an allocation of space, and maybe this is a staff question, a reallocation of space, since you're only going to be seeing, you said 5 people at a time? Something's not adding up here. You're saying 23,000 square feet, and you're seeing 5 people at a time. Something's not adding up. I'm missing something.
I don't understand the 5 people at a time. What I think I'm missing something.
No, well, maybe I misheard you. I'm sorry. How many people did you say you would see?
I would just, the gym is just, it's a by, I don't think I said a number.
By appointment.
In the one space that we actually, this got precipitated by going in for a permit for 2,800 square feet. Only 2,800 square feet is for the personal training space. The rest is other tenants of business use. The 23,000 square feet is not the whole personal training facility.
So,
Right.
well, so for
It's much
2,800,
smaller.
so 2,800 square feet would never trigger this many parking spaces. So what am I missing? I'm sorry.
Well, I guess as we got into this, the entire building really would be non-compliant for if you did a parking calculation. And once we realized, we were just asked to look at it as the property as a whole and not just the immediate 2,800 square feet, which kind of started this whole thing.
That's correct. I'll confirm that, Ms. Mechanic, because this thing has been through the grinder several times, trying to nail down just exactly what the correct numbers were or what they should be. And I assure you that Kim has been very cooperative with zoning clearance staff and with me, and trying to get this all finally settled. So that's about the best thing I know to tell you. That's how we came up with the number.
Dave, this is Bill. I mean, I'm concerned. This is a huge building and complex. And if we vote on the zoning, I mean, 10 years from now, when this gym is gone because we have COVID for another 2 years and no one's going to be personally training with anybody, and they want to build something else in here and they build a restaurant or a bar or something, this place will have nowhere near to park. And since there's nowhere to park in the neighborhood, this variance is going to last forever. And I have a huge concern with such a huge variance when, we have one tenant now. And like I said, COVID's going to be around for another two years, and I don't see personal training things or any other potential client, lasting that long over this next pandemic. And then boom, they have this huge building with this huge zoning for a huge parking variance. I have a huge problem with that.
Mm-hmm. It is a big parking variance. There's no question about that.
But it wouldn't be, if we were to go to a more.
Can I address Bill's question really quickly?
We have to go through this. We couldn't just put a restaurant in there anyways, because that would be a change of use.
Right. Each parking has a different intensity for what the use is. Parking for a restaurant is much more intense than parking for a gym. The parking for the gym is one parking space per 250 square feet. Parking for a restaurant is one parking space per 75 square feet. So if they were to convert any of this to a restaurant, they'd have to come back eventually.
But Jamie, I got this question. I guess the applicant is saying only a portion of the square footage is being allocated to the gym, and the other piece is being allocated to what? Office buildings?
That's correct.
And so do you have enough parking for even the office buildings? Like, if we're reducing the parking, who's going to take the hit?
Well, honestly, I don't see anyone taking the hit, because the number for a gym is, I think, on a normal open gym where you might have people continually coming and going. In this situation, we don't anticipate that type of clientele.
And so how many office spaces do you have in this building? Enough for how many people?
Well, it'd be the balance of the property. I have to admit, off the top of my head, I don't know exactly the number of offices. It's just the rest of the building is zoned for business use.
Because you're saying, am I right that there's 23 spaces total? Is that right?
Yes, and there's like 10. Actually, there's actually like 10 tenants in there right now. They're small spaces.
10 and 10, so there's 20 spaces?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What did you just say?
There's approximately 10 tenants in there.
Oh, 10 tenants, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear.
Okay.
Yeah, there's small tenant spaces.
Okay.
It just seems to me like I started out by saying, maybe you say there's 2,800 square feet of gym space. There's, 5,000 square feet or, 4,500 square feet of office space, and the rest of it's storage. What is it used for? I'm just trying to, I guess because we're not on site, I don't have a good sense of what this looks like. And to Eleanor's point, who's going to be impacted here? long-term and potentially short-term. That's the underlying problem. It's a big ask. We're trying to, you know, exercise some consistency with what we do as it relates to parking variances, et cetera. And this throws a bit of a wrench in it. I don't think that we have a problem with the project and what you're trying to do. It's just reconciling these numbers is difficult.
Okay.
Board members, if you want to look at, you know, sharing the site plan here, I zoomed in on the parking breakdown. So apparently there's 12,145 square feet plus 5,000, so approximately 17,000 square feet of office. The office is parked at 450 square feet per space, or one space per 450 square feet, which gives us 40. And then the gym requires 12. So 40 plus 12 is 52. So there's a parking breakdown as the site is currently.
Okay, so 52, so they're going down by half. More than half.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
I guess then we're
This
trying to
is why-
supplement that
if-
with the
if I-
shared parking agreement.
I'm sorry, what?
And then we're also trying to supplement with the obtaining the shared parking agreement across the street.
And can I see the map again of where that is located?
Just close it. You want to see the map?
Yeah, where she's saying across the street parking would be. No, not the site plan.
She's talking about the aerial.
Eleanor, it's a big space. If I'm not mistaken, it's like a truck yard.
So you're talking about this big space across here with this big building?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
This is why we tried to encourage the applicant and the owner of the building to please do whatever they possibly could to get parking someplace else. You know, we don't do the condition anymore like what we used to, where we used to say, well, if you can provide, you know, 15 spaces across the street or within 750 feet, we can't do that anymore because we have no way to enforce that.
Right.
So it's an unfortunate situation, and all we're saying is, hey, look, and this has been pointed out to the applicant on a couple occasions, I believe, and that is, if you can't come up with the parking, I think you're going to have an uphill battle at the board. So it's like, and I was really hoping that tonight we would hear some really good news about having parking spaces across the street, because I think that would probably make everybody feel a whole lot more comfortable. But, you know, if there's not a bird in the hand, then I'm not sure where we go from there. So it's up to you guys, but I just thought I'd add that because I know they've been trying to negotiate something.
And I'll just speak for, I guess, DPS. I mean, the Division of Parking Services reviews these plans with us. We kind of saw this site as it being in its own vacuum, similar to like sites that are in suburban areas where there's not immediate parking adjacent to the site. No one's affected by the site if they're short on parking, except for, you know, I guess being a capitalist society. If you can't park there, you can't park there. There's not an ability to do anything else with the site. So from our stance, that's the reason why we didn't have any issue with the parking, is because it's kind of a self-inflicted wound if it is one, but it didn't appear to be one when we reviewed it.
Okay. So no neighbors impacted by this.
There's a residential neighborhood right behind it.
Yep.
Yeah, but nobody's going to be going, like, it's not, that residential neighborhood is not street parking.
I mean, there's
People
gravel
park
street
on those
parking. That's a gray area with DPS. I mean, if somebody's parking on the grass in front of your house, you can call and report that. So that's not something that we get into, but it's not a walkable community where you would be parking in the residential areas to be accessing this commercial zone site. So,
Okay.
I mean, we see that significantly differently than somewhere like the Short North or something.
That's what I'm asking. Thank you. Okay, is there anybody here from the community which is to speak about this application? Can you unmute yourself and state your name for the record? Okay, board members, do we have any final questions for the applicant? Okay, we ready to call the roll? Call the question.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
Mr. Wogali,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
No.
Mr. Jones,
I'm going to say yes, but you need to go find that parking across the street quick.
We will. We are in process trying to get that secured.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, case 557 and 561 South Lane. Is the applicant here? Please unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
Craig Moncrief, attorney for the applicant.
Okay. Craig, you have a camera on?
I should. It's not letting me start video for whatever reason.
Chair Bailey, Dave Perry as consultant on the application also.
Okay, Dave, you've been sworn in. Oh, I see you, Mr. Moncrief.
There we go.
You raise your right hand and swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, City, and then we'll turn it over to the applicant.
And Kevin Parzak here, architect for the project, also on the call.
Okay, are you gonna be speaking?
If questions come up, sure, I'll swear in.
Okay. Raise your right hand and you swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we've got BZ 20-064 at 557 and 1 South Lane. This is located on the south side of South Lane, approximately 105 feet west of Parsons Avenue. It's zoned R2F residential district. And they are proposing 2 single-unit dwellings. The site is currently undeveloped and surrounded by single multi-unit apartments and commercial uses located just off Parsons Avenue. The applicant proposes 2 single-unit dwellings on lots that will not front on a public street. This is considered an alley. Planning is generally supportive of the proposed 2 single-unit dwellings fronting an alley. The south side plan and C2P2 state that garage door opening space facing a lot frontage should not exceed 40% of the width of the house facade, and new houses should include usable front porches. Planning recommends that the garage door be reduced to a 1-car door width, and the remainder facade be utilized to construct a covered porch area that gives access to a human-scale door while contributing to the street life and encouraging social interaction, as recommended in the South Side Plan. The Division of Traffic Management has a comment on this application. The Columbus Southside Area Commission and the Schumacher Place Civic Association each recommend approval of this request. Disapproval of the dwellings as presented, although the use and density are supported, the proposed building design is inconsistent with C2P2 design guidelines and is therefore not. That's all.
Sorry, I missed that last sentence.
Although the use and density are supported, the proposed building design is inconsistent with C2P2 design guidelines and is therefore not supported.
Oh, that's something that we don't have jurisdiction over, right? Design guidelines?
They have presented a design that planning does not find to be consistent.
Specifically the footprint. We're not discussing the materials or the shingles or what it's made of. Just the design guidelines refer to the footprint of the building.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood that. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead, applicant, with your presentation.
Okay, thank you, members of the board. Yes, the site is 2 lots. on the south side of South Lane, and the issue is frontage. These lots meet the lot of record standards for the 1959 provisions, and but for frontage on a public street as opposed to a public alley would not be before you. There are a number of other dwellings, existing houses, single-family houses on South Lane to both the east and west of this site. The to narrow in on the issue here, the staff, Schumacher Place Civic Association, and the Columbus Southside Area Commission all support the proposal to build 2 single-family dwellings. The staff, or I should say, the planning recommendation was discussed with both Schumacher Place and Columbus Southside Area Commission, and they support not only the use of 2 single-family dwellings, but the project as presented. And there are differences in this application that warrant the variance requested, and not modifying the houses as the planning staff has requested. These are 30-foot lots. The houses will be in the area of 2,400 square feet, each with a 2-car garage. It's not often the board hears many variances requests for reduction of parking, and in this case, we're saying we want to provide the code required parking. We have a 20-foot alley that has about a 14-foot curb to curb dimension that is posted by the city as no parking. Parsons Avenue, which the site is close to, has no parking. East Beck Street is the next street to the south. East Beck Street to the south is permit parking. So to provide a 1-car garage and a porch with new construction, 2,400 square foot plus or minus houses anticipated to be in the $600,000 area, is inconsistent with that market. And also, just generally, we all want to park either at our houses or near them. The Beck Street permit parking would be about 450 feet or farther from these houses, depending on where parking could be found with a permit to park. And so, in this case, I don't think the difference with this case and the C2P2 recommendations of garages should be a certain percentage or a maximum percentage of a dwelling in relation to the fronting street and so on. This is a very different situation with fronting on an alley. The alley is our only vehicular access. There's no parking on the alley. There's no ability of these future homeowners to park anywhere other than on their property. And on the porch issue, a couple of the houses on South Lane have stoops either in the front or on the side, but there is no house with a front porch or the size of porch that has been recommended. It's just there's nothing wrong with those recommendations in C2P2, but this is just a different circumstance where we would be asking new homeowners to walk a considerable distance to park more than 1 car.
Can we please start with the variance requested? I'm so lost.
Yeah, I don't know why we're talking about.
Yeah, we don't care about any of that right now. Let's talk about this variance that's being requested.
Okay, the parcels front on a public alley rather than a public street. A street is defined in the zoning code as a 35-foot wide right-of-way or greater. This is a public alley because it is less than 35 feet. It is a 20-foot City of Columbus owned right-of-way, and the actual travel distance is about 14 feet. 14 feet curb to curb, and that the City of Columbus has posted the alley as no parking. You can't park on 14 feet curb to curb and reasonably have through traffic. So the alley is posted as no parking. The variance, these 2 houses meet all requirements, and we want to provide the code required parking.
It meets all requirements other than that it fronts on a 20-foot right-of-way rather than a 35-foot right-of-way. So the fronting citation is in the zoning code as requiring dwellings to front on a public street. In the older parts of Columbus, such as this neighborhood, there are lots of dwellings that front on alleys that are called avenues or streets, but they're less than 35 feet of right-of-way.
So this is the same case basically that we had a summer ago, where you had in Old Town East, and you had that new dwelling that was going back on Rich Street or that alley. Same thing that we see in German Village, Italian Village, and everything else, right?
Yes, to all of those and more. In all of the older Midtown neighborhoods, this circumstance exists.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Do we have anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Please unmute yourself. State your name for the record. Okay, hearing none. Does the board members have any more questions for this applicant?
Question.
Questions been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Robali?
Yes.
Mr. Demora?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted.
Thank you, board members.
Yes, moving on.
Thank you.
To case 3369.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Really quickly. Madam Chair, really quickly, I believe Mr. Maleka has to bow out, so I just want to let the applicants know going forward there will only be 4 members voting.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, David.
Okay, case 3369 Indianola Avenue. Will the applicant identify yourself, take yourself off mute, and state your name for the record?
Hello, this is Terry Boutte, architect, and I'm representing and working with the owner of the property.
Okay, can you raise your right hand, sir? And swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Great. We will hear from the city, and then we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 3369 Indianola Avenue is located on the west side of Indianola, approximately 70 feet south of Oakland Park Avenue. The site is within the Clintonville Area Commission and Zone C4 commercial. As you can see, the site is developed with a mixed-use building containing 3 commercial units on the first floor and 4 apartments on the second story. The commercial units are currently retail. The applicant proposes a change of use to Suite B from retail to eating and drinking and requests a variance to reduce the total number of parking spaces for the entire site from 26 required to 16 provided. The Clintonville neighborhood plan states that parking reductions may be appropriate for mixed-use projects along Indianola Avenue. Parking should be balanced with a goal of creating a walkable and bikeable neighborhood, which encourages the use of transit. However, the guideline also states that shared parking arrangements should be encouraged and that parking lots visible from roadways should be screened with a minimum 4-foot high continuous wall, decorative fence or hedge. In order to provide proper landscaping and screening, planning would support the loss of an additional parking space, allowing for a reduction from 26 to 15 spaces. That's a typo. This property also falls within the Indianola Avenue Urban Commercial Overlay, and the applicant is encouraged to adhere to those requirements. Planning encourages the applicant to provide bicycle parking, explore a shared parking agreement, and incorporate landscaping and screening between the parking lot and sidewalk along Indianola Avenue. The Division of Traffic Management states that the proposed change of use on site would require that ADA accessible parking be provided. The applicant has updated their site plan, which is what you see on the PowerPoint, to address this request and further reduces the parking from originally 17 to now 16. The Clintonville Area Commission recommends approval of this request. Staff is also recommending approval. As stated in the Clintonville Neighborhood Plan, parking reductions may be appropriate for mixed-use projects along Indianola Avenue. The goal, again, being creating a walkable and bikeable neighborhood, which encourages the use of transit. The guidelines also state that parking lots visible from roadways should be screened. Therefore, staff can recommend approval with the following condition. Staff requests that the applicant provide landscaping and screening between the parking lot and the sidewalk along Indianola Avenue. With that, we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, Mr. Belay, do you agree to the conditions on the landscaping?
Yes, ma'am. I have no problem with that. The issue that we were dealing with is that the existing whole site is paved either with concrete or asphalt. So we were wondering if we do use planter boxes as the means of achieving that goal.
I'll let Jamie respond to that.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine. The goal is to screen the parking, so whether it's planted in ground or planter boxes, I think that'd be fine as long as it's on the private property. If it's in the public right of way, you'll have to go through Division of Public Service, or Department of Public Service. Sorry.
I understand.
Do you have anything else to add about this application?
I just at this point we were just trying to restripe the existing parking lot so we can accommodate as much parking on the particular site in particular. Now the owner has also achieved and received an agreement with a near neighbor, which is on the northwest corner, to allow overflow parking to occur in their facility.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a point of order. Is the gentleman speaking legally allowed to represent this client? Because it's not on the form that he is.
I thought you said you were the architect, right, sir?
Right, I'm the architect working with the tenant that's leasing the space.
Well, if someone's leasing the space, how do they have the ability to change, represent something for zoning and approve the conditions?
Yeah, do you have permission from the owner?
The tenant has permission for the changes from the owner, and I'm representing the tenant.
I don't know about this one, Jamie.
I have a problem. I don't think he legally has the standing to represent the owner of the building.
Well, the owner has signed the application. The architect is representing the applicant. The owner has signed off on the application, so
they have.
It's not unknown that this application is going forward. The only thing that would, I guess, as a licensed architect, the applicant or the architect is licensed. He's able to represent, whomever. The only thing that might hold him up is the condition for the planter boxes. But I assume that was discussed beforehand.
This guy Rob, we are sure we met at some point.
You tell me, Jamie, how to proceed.
Well, if that condition can't be met, if the owner of the property doesn't allow it, then the applicant will have to come back and have that condition removed.
Okay. Okay. Is there anybody here from the community that wishes to speak about this application? Please take yourself off of mute and identify yourself. Board members, do we have any more questions for the applicant?
Nope.
Are we ready to call the question?
Call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Demora?
I'm hesitant to do this because I don't think he has the ability, but I'll vote yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Weldelli?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Good.
Jamie, can you mute folks again, please?
Yep.
Okay, calling 1320. I'm sorry, that one was postponed. Calling 456 East Dundon Road. If the applicant is here, please take yourself off mute and state your name for the record.
Thomas McKenzie.
Great. Can you raise your right hand, sir? You swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth. Please say I do.
I do.
Great. We'll have the city present the case and we'll come back to you.
All right. BZA 20-070 456 East Dunedin Road, located on the south side of East Dunedin Road, approximately 775 feet west of Indianola Avenue. It is zoned R3 residential. The site is developed with a single unit dwelling and detached garage. Surrounding uses are all single unit dwellings. The applicant proposes to rebuild a garage previously destroyed by a falling tree during a storm. The applicant requests variances to maintain the previous footprint of the garage at 1,008 square feet and increase the height of the garage from 15 feet to 20 feet to match the roof pitch of the house where the previous garage did not. Planning supports the requested variances with conditions. The Clintonville area plan stresses that new garages should be compliant and similar in character to existing nearby home designs. Garage height should be permitted to exceed maximum height allowed by code if it is architecturally compatible to the primary house. Buildings should be designed to include transparent windows and other design features to emphasize their human scale. For the app request that the windows be incorporated into the southern and northern gable walls, and the applicant has complied with that request, as you can see on the elevations. The Division of Traffic has no comment on this application. The Clintonville staff can recommend approval of the proposed garage as the proposed garage is recommendations of the neighborhood, and we would just condition this approval upon the stamping of those elevations provided. That's all.
Okay, Mr. McKenzie, are you, do you have the final elevations in the hands of the city that they can stamp?
I do not. I was not aware that I needed to get those stamped, but I can do that right away.
We're going to do it digitally. It's fine. You've provided me with the digital version. If
Yes.
we can go back, you will see those.
Okay. Okay, do you have anything else to add to this application?
No, I do not.
Okay, is there anybody here from the community that wishes to speak on this application? Please take yourself off of mute and state your name for the record. Okay, hearing none, does the board members have any questions for this applicant?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lavalley,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, calling case 266 East Fifth Avenue. Is the applicant here?
Yes, ma'am. Jack Reynolds, Smith and Hale. I am here with help.
So, Mr. Reynolds, I think you have an echo. Who was the person that helped you? Mr. Reynolds?
I think he's going to call in because sound's coming from his computer into the computer. So,
Yeah, I
Jack,
get that.
Are you calling in?
Who was the other person that said he was helped, that they were going to help? Are they here?
We have the developer here and Moody Nolan, the architect.
Okay, are you guys going to speak?
I think so, yes.
Let's go. Can you, whoever the architect was, can you state your name, please?
This is Terry Umberger with Moody Nolan Architects.
Okay.
You've got Grant Dolvin with Market Development.
Okay, and who else?
Jonathan Moody with Moody Nolan.
Okay. If you guys want to raise your right hand, Mr. Reynolds, you can too. Thank you. Do you swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
I do.
Great. Okay, so I'll hear from the city first, and then we'll come back to the applicant. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. This is BZA 20-072 at 266 East Fifth Avenue, located on the northeast corner of East Fifth Avenue and North 5th Street, D4 Commercial District. The site has consisted of 4 parcels 2 undeveloped and 2 developed with commercial buildings. Those are in the process of being combined. Surrounding the site are a variety of uses. Along East Fifth Avenue are commercial and manufacturing buildings, as well as single unit dwellings. To the west is vacant land. To the north is a learning center, and to the east is more commercial development and a religious facility. The applicant proposes to construct a mixed-use building with 2 commercial tenant spaces on the first floor and 5 floors of residential dwellings. Variances are requested to increase the height and floor area ratio required by the University District zoning overlay, reduce the amount of frontage occupied by commercial uses on the first floor, and allow a post to encroach into the clear, actually that one is being altered. They want to allow no vision clearance upon ingress into the garage. And that is reflected in the list of variances at the top of the staff report.
I'm sorry, so no vision clearance for the ingress?
This clearance is requested for the ingress, not the egress.
What's the difference? I'm not familiar with those terms, sorry.
Ingress is as you travel into the building, egress is as you travel out of the building.
Gotcha, thank you.
So planning supports this proposal, although the University District Plan recommends this location not have a floor area ratio exceeding 1.4, building height exceeding 45 feet. Staff finds the quality of design, location on a transit corridor, provision of affordable housing units beyond the minimum requirements for incentives, and similar scale to an adjacent project as sufficient factors for supporting this request. Staff also notes that while 2 buildings greater than 50 years old on the site at present will be demolished, the Historic Preservation Officer has determined that no adverse effect would result from the demolition. The Division of Traffic Management has no issue with the requested variances. The University Area Commission recommends approval of this application. Staff can recommend approval of the variances for this mixed-use building as the quality of design, size, and scale are consistent with similar proposals along the Fifth Avenue corridor. We recommend approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Mr. Reynolds, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, ma'am. We've been working closely with the neighborhood. We met with the Wineland Park folks on a number of occasions now, and we had their support from the beginning. I think that the vote that the Housing Commission took was 32 for, no against, and 1 abstention. And we also made the presentation to the University Area Commission, which was very supportive of the building and the design of the building. Again, it is a 6-story multi-use building. First floor, as staff pointed out, will have a mixture of residential, office, retail, restaurant use. The second floor will be an amenity deck for the apartment users. And for Mr. DeMora's sake, we will have 150 parking spaces. So we're more than adequately parking the facility. So there's no question there. I do have folks from Moody Nolan as well as Marker, who is developing the property, on the call this evening, and we'd be happy to answer any questions if the board members have any questions. So I thank you.
I do have a question for traffic. The vision clearance, can you just explain the rationale for that one?
Yeah, so as I think Michael kind of stated too, the access point, usually vision clearance is required on both sides of an access point. We do have flexibility sometimes on the entering movement, so it's not technically egress and ingress, it's just the vision triangle furthest away from the driver's eye is the one we don't necessarily see an issue with, just based on how the parking entrance is set back from the right-of-way. They're still providing the vision clearance triangle on the south side where you would naturally kind of look for oncoming vehicles. But there's, there's enough space between when you exit the garage and when you're looking on North 6th Street that we are acceptable to them not having it on the north side.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody here to speak about this application from the community? Okay, do we have any other questions for the applicant?
I'll call the question.
Question has been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Wildellian,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
I want to thank Mr. Reynolds for his comment and vote yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Okay, calling 4818 Amber Crossing Drive. Will the applicant take yourself off of mute and state your name for the record?
Good evening. This is Rebecca Mott with the Plank Law Firm, 411 East Town Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215.
Okay, Rebecca, can you raise your right hand and do you swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Phil presenting here. 4818 Amber Crossing Drive is located at the southwest corner of Noah Bixby Road and Refugee Road, served by the Greater Southeast Area Commission. It's unlimited residential. The 25-acre site is undeveloped section of a subdivision called Amber Field at Big Walnut. The undeveloped section includes vegetation, tree cover, and a large pond. In addition to the developing single-unit lots of previous sections of Amber Field, surrounding uses include undeveloped and parkland owned by Columbus to the west, north, and south, offices to the north and east, and single-unit dwellings to the east. The applicant proposes to construct a 40-lot section of the subdivision, 4 lots of which will have frontage along Noah Bixby. Primary access for these lots will be from a newly platted internal road, not from Noah Bixby Road. The variance is to reduce the required building line along Noah Bixby Road for the 4 lots from 40 feet to 12 feet. While the Southeast Land Use Plan recommends housing units be oriented towards the street, planning recognizes the existing conditions present in the section of the neighborhood that has already been completed. Planning Division recommends the applicant consider including connectivity to the parkland and pond on the north and west portion of the property. Greater Southeast Area Commission recommends approval of this request, and city departments recommend approval. Staff does not oppose the request, considering the nature of the existing conditions and that the lots will be accessed internally. Madam Chair.
Okay, applicant, Mrs. Mott.
Yes, thank you. So the applicant is just seeking one area variance, and it only affects these 4 lots in this 40-lot part of the subdivision called Amberfield. So these 4 lots that are circled, this variance request is actually due to a right-of-way take from No Bixby Road, and the county actually took the land. Normally they take land on both sides of a right-of-way for a widening project. But in this case, because on the east side, the homes are already developed and built on the east side, so the county took entirely the widening from our section, our property. So that really restricts, and you can see the right-of-way line that sort of meanders in on lots 95 through lots 98. And it does change from lot to lot. But at the very widest point of the take, that would require us to have only a rear yard setback of 12 feet. But again, this only affects 4 of the lots. All of the other lots can adhere to the 40-foot rear yard setback along No Bixby Road. So the section of the code is 3332.21B, and it just talks about a building line for the rear yard fronting a street shall be established on an unimproved frontage for that distance that is 1/2 of the designated right-of-way width of the frontage street as shown on the Columbus Thoroughfare Plan. Now with this widening project and the county's take of our property, the Columbus Thoroughfare Plan now designates this road as a suburban community connector, which is an 80-foot in width street. which means then the frontage, the setback should be 40 feet. So again, we are respectfully requesting just a variance on 4 of these lots from 40 feet to 12 feet.
Okay. Do we have anybody here from the community to speak on on this application? Do we have any other questions from the board members for this applicant?
I'll call the question.
But please call the roll.
Mr. Rodelli,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm having trouble getting to the document to call the next address.
1195 Sullivan Avenue.
Thank you.
Quickly, Madam Chair,
Yes.
before you call that, I just got a message from Mr. Welderly. He's got to jump off the meeting for a client call, so the board is down to 3 members.
Yeah, I apologize, everybody, but I do have to run.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Applicant, please turn yourself off of mute and state your name for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Eric Zartman, attorney for the applicant.
Okay. Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you give tonight will be the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Great. Okay, we'll hear from the
Do we want to get everybody muted in advance? All right, BZ 20-078 at 1195 Sullivan Avenue, located on the south side of Sullivan Avenue, approximately 180 east of West Park Avenue. It's zoned M Manufacturing District. The 0.8 acre site is developed with 1,224 square foot commercial building. Surrounding the site are commercial buildings and residential structures, mostly boarded up in the C4 commercial and M manufacturing districts along the Sullivan Avenue corridor. A rail line runs behind the building. The applicant proposed to renovate the building, purportedly utilized in the past as a pop-up brothel, and convert the space into a psychological counseling service center. Variances are requested to relocate bicycle parking behind the building and reduce the required number of parking spaces from 3 to 2. Planning supports this request. The parking reduction is supported by C2P2 policy, given the site's access to transit and pedestrian accessibility along with the mixed-use development pattern in the immediate area along Sullivan Avenue. Planning recommends additional bicycle racks to be installed in the public right-of-way along Sullivan Avenue in coordination with the Department of Public Service. The Division of Traffic Management has no comment regarding this application. The Franklinton Area Commission recommends approval of this application. Staff can recommend approval as the proposed parking reduction is consistent with C2P2 criteria for parking reductions. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Mrs. Zartman?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks, Michael. Sorry, my dog is barking. The applicant is a nonprofit organization committed to providing counseling and a refuge for prostitutes and victims of sexual abuse. Until today, if this project is approved, this will be their first, I say, brick and mortar 24-hour operation. Until then, they've just been renting out space from a local church. So in addition to providing a great service for the community, there's also going to be significant building improvements that will make the Sullivan Avenue corridor improve and hit on some of the planning objectives in the plan, C2P2 plan. The parking reduction we have a letter that we submitted to Michael from a neighbor, the Rain Brothers, who have agreed to allow us to use their parking facility, which is to the alley in the rear, anytime we need it. And with respect to the bicycle parking, the building has a 0-foot building line, so there really is no space in front of the building to provide parking. And additionally, for some of the women that will be using this facility, rear parking would be preferable, as it couldn't be identified by people driving by. I have to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, is there anybody here to speak on this application? Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Demora?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Good luck with the project. Okay, calling 541 Brill Avenue. The applicant is on the phone. Please take yourself off mute and identify your name for the record.
Yes. John Ingwerson, architect for the owner.
Okay, Mr. Ingelson, can you raise your right hand? You swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Great.
Okay, so this is BZA 20-080, 541 Brill Avenue. It's located at the terminus of Brill Avenue, approximately 229 feet north of West Mound Street. This is in the area that's served by the Franklinton Area Commission, and they recommend approval of the variances requested. The applicant proposes two variances, the first being to reduce the required building setback line from 25 feet to 1.63 feet along the northeast lot line for a building, and a variance to not be required to provide a sidewalk from Central Avenue to access the property. The building that you see in the pictures was originally constructed as a car wash in 1988, according to the county records, and it's been used since that time as an office warehouse use, a tire store, and auto repair facility. The applicant wishes to construct a new building that would go behind the building that's existing there that you see, and it would go up against the raised Interstate Highway 71. So that's why they're asking for the variance to the building setback along the northeast corner of the proposed new building. Also, due to the change in the terrain from west of the building toward Central Avenue, they felt that it wasn't practical really to provide a sidewalk from Central Avenue onto the site. And I think, Bill, if you could go back maybe to the picture there where it shows the grade from Central Avenue looking to the east. So that would be back a couple from the picture you have up there now. Back to a couple more. One before that one. Yeah.
That's good.
So
that
that cuts up like a railroad track and everything else, and really, it really, wouldn't serve any practical purpose. So city staff is recommending approval of this request, and we have no conditions. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Ingleson, do you have anything to add?
Just to the board, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. We're agreeing to C2P2 as well for the landscaping along Central, which is right here to the left. And this building up here sits back behind the tire and auto repair. And this will be additional auto repair uses. Everything accesses this site through Breel. There's no practical access from Central as this road drops down to go under the railroad and the I-70 east and west overpass. There is access to the back of the site. There's a 15-foot storm sewer easement along here. So our building area that we're going to gain from this is in the yellow. And any questions you would have, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, do we have any questions? Is there anybody here from the community that wishes to speak about this application?
Call the question.
Okay, question has been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Demora?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, 3428 Royal Hill Drive. Will the applicant unmute yourself and state your name for the record?
Mr. Howey? Mr. Howey?
Yes.
See his name, just can't hear him.
Hang on.
Mr. Howey, are you there?
I'm here. I'm trying to get connected. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
We can hear you.
All right. I tried to call in, but it wouldn't let me in for some reason. I must have done something wrong.
Okay, can you, do you swear that the testimony you give tonight is the truth and nothing but the truth? Please say I do.
I do.
Okay, we'll hear from the city and then we'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you.
Madam Chair, this case, number 16 and number 17 are virtually identical with the same applicant. Do you want to call them together or individually?
Let's call them together.
Okay.
So we will hear 428 Royal Hill Drive and 3465 Royal Hill Drive. Go ahead.
3428 Royal Hill Drive is located on the east side of Royal Hill Drive, approximately 125 feet south of Andy Terrace. The site is within the Greater Hilltop Area Commission and zoned R2 residential. And 3465 Royal Hill Drive is located on the south side of Royal Hill Drive, approximately 300 feet east of Ripple Brook Road. Both sites are undeveloped. Surrounding uses are all single-unit dwellings with single-car attached garages. The applicant proposes the construction of a single-unit dwelling with an attached single-car garage and requests a variance to reduce the parking setback from 25 feet to 7 feet to accommodate a parking space on the driveway for a second vehicle, so essentially a stacked parking space. Columbus Citywide planning policies state that attached garages facing front elevations should not exceed 40% of the home's width, and that includes the garage, or be set back at least 2 feet from the front elevation. In situations where it is not feasible to set back the garage from the front elevation, a functional front porch of at least 100 square feet should extend beyond the face of the garage. The Division of Traffic Management has no comments, and the Greater Hilltop Area Commission recommends approval. Staff recommends disapproval as proposed. Staff could recommend approval if the front porch were to be enlarged for greater consistency with C2P2 guidelines stating functional front porches extend beyond the face of the garage. Further, staff encourages the inclusion of windows on side elevations as possible. And with that, we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, Mr. Haley, how do you feel about these proposals that the city is putting forth?
I guess we could do that. It was passed through as is in the area commission zoning and bottom line is these are the final 2 lots in this subdivision. When we purchased the properties in 2003, we purchased 4 lots. The lot right next to 28 or 3428 is 3434. We built a 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-story there with a 2-car garage. And then next to the 2865 property on 2870 or 3471, next to the 3465 property, we built a 3-bedroom, 2-bath bi-level with a 1-car garage. The problem that we've run into on these properties, we bought the last 4 lots in the subdivision. They were unbuilt on because of their unusual size and shape based compared to the other lots in the subdivision. The bottom line is I'm just requesting that I can finish out the subdivision for you, and these 1-car garage houses will be no different than any other 1-car garage in the development.
Okay, do we have any questions for this applicant?
So, am I understand that, I mean, since you haven't built these, you could build the front porch on them and the city would be fine with it, but you don't want to build the front porch, is that what I understand?
Well, I mean, I can build the front porch, but it would affect the front elevation somewhat, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm one of the reasons why I buy lots like this is because I am flexible and I can do whatever I want. I'm currently approved on the plan that I have by the city as far as plan review, and they're just waiting on the zoning approval on this thing. So ideally, I would like to get it approved right away and go ahead and get the thing started before the weather turns on. And to be honest with you, if you were in this development, a garage in front of a porch or a front face of the house is very, very common and would not be unusual on this streetscape.
Jamie, is that correct? Is it what he just said correct?
Yeah, what he said is exactly correct. This development was built, 30, 40 years ago, well before the C2P2 guidelines were enacted. So this would be, as much as I support my colleagues in planning, I think this is, by them adhering to the C2P2 guidelines, it would make their development out of character for the neighborhood.
Well, that's all I had to hear then. Okay, that's what I had to hear.
Is there anybody here for the community that wants to speak on this application? Okay, do we have any further questions for the applicant?
So we question and vote on each address separately, Madam Chair?
Yeah, there are no conditions.
Yeah, we can call the addresses separate.
Oh, sorry.
Let's call for 3428 Royal Hill first.
Okay, Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey,
Yes, and then call for 3465 Royal Hill Drive.
okay, Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Demora,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Calling 61 East Dundon Road. The applicant, unmute yourself and state your name for the record.
I'm Jason Hall, co-owner of 61 East Dunedin.
Okay, can you raise your right hand and swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth? I think say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Okay, we'll hear from the city and then we'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 61 East Dundon Road is located on the south side of East Dundon Road, approximately 485 feet east of North High Street, served by the Quinville Area Commission. It's zoned R3 residential. The site is developed with a single unit dwelling and detached garage. Surrounding uses are all single unit dwellings. The applicant proposes to raise and rebuild a detached garage on the same foundation. The variance is to reduce the minimum side yard on the east side from 3 feet to 1.8 feet. The Quinville area plan states that new garages should be compatible and similar in character to existing nearby home designs. The proposed garage meets these recommendations and is therefore supported by Planning Division. Quinville Area Commission recommends approval of this request, and City Department as the proposal is consistent with the area plan's guidelines for garage designs. Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Hall, if you have anything to add to this application.
It's pretty basic. I don't think I have anything to add, but I'm here to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
Is there a reason that we didn't ask for a cross-maintenance access agreement to be a condition?
You mean, I have an easement already signed and notarized. I'm just waiting to turn it in until this is done.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, I forgot to mention the two conditions that we have listed, including the recorded maintenance easement agreement, which Mr. Hall is already working on. That would be with the adjacent property owner to the east, and the applicant shall commit to the stamped building elevations.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Hall, are you comfortable with this being the final elevation for it to be stamped for the record?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, is there anybody here that wishes to speak about this application? Please identify yourself. Okay, do we have any further questions for the applicant?
I'll call the question.
Okay, question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Demora?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Good luck.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Okay, 6015 Cooper Road. If the applicant, please take yourself off of mute and identify your name for the record. The applicant is here. Mr. Hardman, I see that you're talking, but I can't hear you. If you are yes, you are the applicant.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, oh, there you are.
Okay, Rich Hardman, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
if you both can raise your hand. You swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Okay. We're going to hear from the city and then we'll turn it back over to you guys.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 6015 Cooper Road is located on the west side of Cooper Road, approximately 420 feet north of Forest Hills Boulevard, served by the Northland Community Council. It's zoned R rural. The 2.5 acre site is heavily wooded and developed with a single unit dwelling with an attached garage. Surrounding uses include single unit dwellings to the west, north, and south, and a church and community center to the east. The applicant proposes to construct an in-ground pool, and detached garage. There will be no second story, and separate portions of the garage will be used as a pool house and shop area. Variances are to increase the maximum garage area on a lot from 720 square feet to 1,720 square feet, and to increase the height of a garage from 15 feet to 27.5 feet. The Northland 1 area plan notes that new garages should be compatible with nearby housing design in terms of height, width, and setbacks. Staff notes that the size and characteristics of the parcel in question and the consistency of the building elevations with design guidelines make the larger garage supportable. The Northland, Division of Traffic Management states that right-of-way dedication of 40 feet from center line of Cooper Road will be required. The Northland Community Council recommends approval of this request, and city departments recommend approval with conditions. Considering the size and characteristics of the parcel in question, the proposal is consistent with the area plan's design guidelines for compatibility with nearby housing design. And the conditions are that the applicant shall provide landscaped mounted screening along the western property line, which is shown on the site plan here. The applicant shall commit to the stamped building elevations. Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Hardman, do you have anything to add?
Really, the only thing to add is the reason for the height variance is we're trying to accommodate a 12 by 14 door for RV and boat storage with an average of 40 to 45 feet in depth. So that's what's creating the height variance in this particular building. So that's what's causing the height variance. If you look at the surrounding properties that are off of Cooper, there's a number of them that have large detached garages very similar to this as well. So that's really all I have to add unless there's questions.
Okay.
Madam Chair, they accepted the conditions.
Oh, correct.
The mound is already being worked on as we speak, and there is trees being planted as well as ground cover to incorporate the screen as requested.
Okay, great. Okay, do we have anybody from the community that wishes to speak about this application?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Paul.
Thank you. Dave Paul, representing the Northland Community Council. We met with Mr. and Mrs. Hardman on the 30th of September and discussed their case. We believed, as we looked at surrounding properties and the amenities that they have provided in terms of detached garages and so forth, that this was not inconsistent for the area, even though it was a significant increase in the square footage of the garage. At the time we met with them, they weren't sure about the actual maximum height. I noticed that it is specified at 27.5 feet in the agenda, so I'm assuming that's in the final plan that the applicant has shared with staff. Our recommendation at the time, though, was 14-0 to recommend approval with one condition, and that was simply that they indicate on the plan what the maximum height of the garage would be. So I believe they've met that condition, and we would stand in support. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any further questions for the applicants? If not, are we ready to call the question?
Call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Demora?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Congratulations on the project.
Thank you all.
1146 Gemini Place. The applicant, take yourself off of mute and identify your name for the record.
Robert Sweet, McBride Dale Clarion, 5721 Dragon Way, Suite 300, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45227.
Great. Can you raise your right hand and swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, we will hear from the city and then we'll turn it back over to you.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 1146 Gemini Place is located on the north side of Gemini Place, approximately 250 feet east of Antares Avenue. The site is within the Far North Columbus Communities Coalition and zoned LC4 commercial. The 9.97 acre site is undeveloped. The applicant, Huntington National Bank, proposes to construct a 2,500 square foot retail bank facility on the property with a drive-through canopy consisting of 2 video teller lanes and 2 automated transaction machines. They're proposed on the northern elevation of the building. The applicant requests a variance to increase the maximum allowable parking from 12 to 20. The Far North Area Plan states that the parking should be hidden to the greatest extent possible by locating it to the side and rear of the building. As such, planning would consider support of this request if the site plan were revised such that parking was to the side and rear of the building, rather than placed in front of the building. Planning recommends the applicant consider shifting the building towards the street and placing the parking to the rear. Additionally, a clear and safe route for pedestrians from sidewalk to their front entrance should also be included. The Division of Traffic Management states that right-of-way dedication of 60 feet from the center line of Gemini Place will be required, and the Far North Columbus Communities Coalition recommends approval. Staff is recommending disapproval as proposed. As stated in the Far North Area Plan, parking should be hidden to the greatest extent possible by locating it to the side and rear of the building. As such, staff could support the request if the site plan were revised such that parking were to the side and rear of the building rather than placed in front. Madam Chair, turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, Mr. Sweet. Your comments on city's
Sorry about that. So looking at this plan, we designed it to have the drive-through areas in the back so they are not fronting on Gemini Place. In addition, our neighbors to the east and to the west of us, as well as to the south of us and to the north of us, all have parking within the required front yards. As you can see, we feel that our plan is consistent with the adjoining developments out there. And we also took a look at the Far North Plan and saw that those recommendations, I believe, were designed more for the Polaris Road corridor rather than the Gemini Place corridor, although, however, as you know, those can all be loosely interpreted because they are plans. With that being said, that's the reasoning why we're not looking to shift this building. We feel that this is consistent. The folks at the Polaris Design Commission, as well as the Far North Communities Coalition, both agreed that the layout was sufficient and should be supported.
Okay. Do we have anybody to speak about this application?
I've got, just so the folks know, I've got a gentleman from Huntington with me, Matt Van Buren. I also have Erin Hoggle. She's with the architecture firm, and a colleague of mine, Lauren Treadler, is also on as well.
Do we have any questions for the applicant or any of his colleagues? And I didn't see anybody raising their hand to speak about this issue. Are we ready to call the question?
So we're gonna skip over what Jamie said, or what are we doing?
Well, I was convinced by the applicant who said that this was consistent with the properties in the area, and looking at the aerial view, that looked to be the case. If you disagree, go ahead.
Jamie?
I agree with the applicant that, yeah, the existing parcels are developed not in accordance with the Far North Area Plan, but I'm just reporting what the Planning Division has requested for future development.
I'll call the question.
The Planning Division isn't faring too well tonight, I can tell you that.
The who?
Planning Division isn't faring too well tonight.
Right. Okay, questions have been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. DeMora?
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a wonderful evening.
You as well. Okay, 340 Green Lawn Avenue. Do we have an applicant? Unmute yourself. Put yourself on camera. Identify your name for the record.
Hi, this is Kevin Kindy from Triad Architects. I'm just called in by phone. And then Lauren Turnage from my office is here also.
Okay, Lauren, are you there?
Yes, and I'm able to start video.
Okay. If you can raise your right hand and both of you all can swear in that the testimony you give tonight is the truth and nothing but the truth, please state I do.
I do.
I do.
Okay, great. We'll hear from the city and then we'll turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board members, you may recall this address was heard a few months ago at 340 Green Lawn Avenue. The site was cited by code enforcement for installing a patio without zoning clearance. They came in and got a number of variances to increase the amount of parking without getting a parking variance. One of the variances they missed was to allow a parking space to encroach into division clearance triangle. So they're here back for one more variance, which is that one, and city staff is recommending approval. Staff can support a variance for the parking space to encroach into the required division clearance triangle east of the eastern access point, with the understanding that this access point is intended to be an entrance-only access point. So the applicants have discussed with the Division of Traffic Management. They are all in support with the condition that that will be an entrance only, and staff asks that the site plan be stamped to ensure that. That is our only condition.
Okay. Is the applicant prepared to have this plan stamped as final?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add?
Nope.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
I'll call the question.
I'm sorry, let's see if there's anybody from the community that wants to speak on this before we get there. Okay, no one. Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called. Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. DeMora,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, variance is granted. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Madam Chair?
Yes.
One of the earlier cases from preliminary, the request for a board order extension at 2701 Indianola has joined the meeting. Mr. Abed, if you're available, please make yourself known.
Hello. Let me start my video here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
All right. Well, yeah, this is a project that was approved by the UAC and then the BZA. It was a parking variance. Put extensive work into this project, and as a restaurateur managing other restaurants, it was just put on ice. We're requesting a variance. We had we went through the code, and there was something in there that said if there's financing, field financing, and or construction contracts, that extension wasn't needed. But I spoke to James, and he suggested just to be safe, I should file for an extension.
Okay. How long of extension would you like?
I think a year, just to be safe.
Okay. Okay, so 1 year extension to begin the work on your project. Do we have a motion?
Can I ask can I see yours again, what establishment this is?
Yeah, this is, well, it's a vacant building on Indianola on Cliffside. It's 2701, near the Glen Echo Ravine.
The one right by the bridge?
Yeah,
the
the one right by
UDF?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just trying to get familiar with the site. Okay, all right. I voted for that the last time. I'm okay.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, do we have a motion to
I'll
extend?
move for 1 year extension.
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. DeMora,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey.
Yes, your extension is granted.
Guys, thank you very much. Have a great night.
You're welcome. Meeting is adjourned. Jamie,
Yes.
have you guys given any thought ever to a streamlined approach to some, I'm gonna put this in air quotes, standard type of variance requests that would not have to come through a full hearing?
Well, you mean like some sort of administrative approval?
Right.
Or maybe something
Unfortunately,
like
we
the
don't have that
council.
ability.
I was like, maybe something like the council does. Like the council has a agenda that they have one thing at the beginning. And if there's no objections to something like we just had the last 4 or 5 cases, then they all get passed with one vote.
Right. Have we thought about kind of putting some categories in to say, okay, these types will be heard as a single line item type thing, and then you don't have to hear, and the person doesn't have to be present.
Well, it's funny. Well, first of all, the applicant always has to be present. It's in the code. Secondly, we have tried that where I know Dave and I have been doing this for a while, that there are cases that we think are going to be no-brainers, that are just going to, be a slam dunk, easy peasy, but then there's always, and no offense to architects, but there's always an architect that seems to gum up the works and have some sort of issue with one thing or another, which makes it go from a 2-second meeting to a 30-minute case. So we have toyed with that. We try to do a 6 o'clock agenda where again, we put the easy ones first. Then we said, well, let's do the hard ones first, and then we can just skate through. And that seemed to upset people that had to wait for the hard ones. It's not really our say to either approve or disapprove a case ourselves. That's what your job is to do. We can give you our as you know, our new recommendations are culminations of the different divisions, but I think you know us well enough, or our reports well enough on how we present, that you can kind of see if our heart is in it, or if it's, we're just reading a report. And if that's the impression, you can say what you want and we'll go with it. But if we feel like it's, something that really needs to be discussed, I think all cases need to go before the board.
Okay. I just wondered if there was ever a time where that was entertained, by the powers that be, of having some sort of streamlined process that would ease the burden on the applicant side, right? As well as, as was your side and us as well.
And I think what you're asking about are some sort of administrative approval that doesn't even have to go to the board, which the only thing I can think of is a gravel surface outside of 400 feet from a residential area that can go to the chief zoning official and he can approve of that. I mean, There's an exorbitant fee, but it can be done. Otherwise, I'm thinking of
like garage. I'm thinking of, garage. We get a lot of garage height, where it's like, okay, can we say up front, like, if you meet the, if you submit a plan and it meets the architectural design and it's not have a dwelling, all the things we go through, or the one we just heard about side yard, reducing the side yard on a garage from 3 feet to 1 foot, right? If you have the cross maintenance easement access and you file that, we will just read it at the beginning and say these are being approved without having a whole, process.
Right. Well, 2 things. One, we can reintroduce or revisit the idea of putting the quote unquote easy ones first with those caveats. I'll come up with some sort of checklist that states, here's kind of what the board has used to approve it. If you can provide this before the meeting, we can do it quickly. I don't think we can do anything administratively or without the board actually voting.
Okay.
Secondly, as you may have heard, the City of Columbus is hiring a consultant to revamp our zoning code. There are quite a few changes that are coming up. One thing kickstarting this is, what are some of the most what are some of the most common variances that we've approved? And garage height is definitely one of them. So we're thinking about why not just raise the height of a garage in the zoning code. So that should probably reduce the number that we see.
Okay.
Side yard, and depending on the neighborhood, if it's German Village where almost no one has more than 6 inches to a foot, then that could be still a variance, but they may have softer standards in historic neighborhoods. They're trying to be denser, which will do away with a lot of the lot coverage, side yards, lot width kind of things that we've typically been dealing with.
Okay. Okay, just my layman's suggestion for improvement.
Before we go, I see we have a guest joined us late, Mr. Hodge.
The meeting's over, Mr. Hodge.
I know. I had an item on the agenda earlier, and I see that it looks like most of the board members have left. I thought I should come back. I would have done this during my agenda item earlier, but I had to be out at an area commission, or actually sitting at my desk at an area commission. Most of you will remember last month I lost my cool a little bit after my case, and I wanted to be here tonight, and maybe I'll come back at another meeting to make a formal apology to the BZA members that are not here tonight. I see Mr. DeMora is here. I specifically owe Mr. DeMora and Mr. Weldelli an apology. I've said before, because this is not the first time I've lost my cool, but I have a duty, as you know, Ms. Palmer, to zealously represent my clients. I got to try to figure out a way to sometimes to do so without becoming a zealot, which I do sometimes. So to those of you that are here, I apologize. I'll do my best to keep my emotions off my sleeve as I present my cases in the future. By and large, BZA has been very good to me through the years, and I want to make sure that people don't think I'm a jerk, because I'm not. I just take my client stuff pretty seriously, too seriously sometimes. But I respect all of you and apologize to you for being a jerk last month.
Outstanding, Mr. Hodge, outstanding. Bill, do you have any comments, or you want to just let it ride? Bill's letting it ride.
And if it makes you feel any better, David was a bit of a jerk to us at Northland as well last month, so it wasn't just you guys.
That is not true, Dave. You all were a jerk to me.
Okay, well, I guess we don't need to make any adjustments to timing for the Thanksgiving and Christmas meetings, since we're still Zooming. I guess that schedule is fine, Jamie?
November is good, but December, we do usually bump it up a month to the 15th. Now, that is because after we've moved downtown, there was a huge conflict of who claimed the hearing room.
Right, I remember that.
Always had it the fourth Tuesday of every month. Now we were, fighting with planning with Italian Village, or somebody else had it the third Tuesday of the month. So that's why we moved it to the third Wednesday or the third Monday of the month. Now that we're all working from home and doing things remotely, well, honestly, I think the agenda has been, or the schedule has been published, so we may as well keep it if you're okay with having the third Monday of December.
The third Monday is the 21st. That doesn't really change much from the fourth Tuesday, which is the 22nd.
Sorry, the second Monday, which would be the 14th.
The second Monday, okay, so the 14th?
Yes, that's what we have scheduled.
Oh, you already have that scheduled, okay. I didn't have that changed.
That was before, well, the schedule came out before COVID.
Okay. And so we're still on for November the 24th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I think maybe next, if we want to make an announcement, just to get it on the record and make sure all the board members are up for the second Monday of the month, that would be a really good idea.
Okay, cool. I'll leave that to you to remember to do that.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
I will make that.
I will remember that, Jamie.
So we have us for.
Okay. Good deal. Talk to you guys later.
All right, Eleanor. Have a good month.
You too. Bye.
Have a good night.
Good night, Eleanor. Good night, David.
Night.